And we're back. It's the Brain Trust Poker Podcast, episode number 12. We're just hanging out tonight. We got the crew. It's me, you, and the crew. And who's the crew? The crew is our man from Texas, the poker prodigy, Jess Amby. How are you, sir?
Good, thank you.
Good. And Tom, the chess wizard from Canada. How are you, Tom?
I'm doing great.
Good. All right, man. Well, let's kick this thing off. I got a bunch of things I want to cover on this episode. So Jess has a game for us. I have something that I want to do in the spirit of fantasy football. And we wanted to talk a little bit about the tiers rankings video that went out probably like 3 weeks ago, and just kind of discuss what came out of that. But let me kick it off with just a quick question of like, how have you guys been? What's poker been like for you over the last couple weeks?
In my case,
okay, there we go.
Not good, not bad.
Okay.
It's been okay.
Okay.
I'm just holding my own.
Okay.
Yeah, on my end, I was, I guess since late May, early June, I was on a 13 session winning streak. I could do no wrong. And I thought we were going to get maybe to 40 or 50 games or something like that, 50 sessions. And
You'd solve poker.
It's like, oh, man, I'm nailing this. I got this 1-2 thing figured out. And then I've lost the last 2 out of 3 sessions. So coming back to earth.
Oh man, no 40 or 50. I had a similar experience. I don't recall what I got up to. I think 10 or 11 in a row, and I was like, wow, this is awesome. I lost 3 in a row if I don't count like my online play. My online play's been very good. So the PLO on Poker Bros has been very nice. But my actual live sessions, I had three losses in a row, and they weren't like, I don't remember if I shared the hands with you guys or not on the Discord, but they were like, flop a set, the guy makes a straight by the river, stuff like that, where you're like, okay, well, it is what it is, sometimes.
Yep.
Sometimes it's just going to happen. So, but yeah, and let's, okay, so it's fall. In the spirit of fantasy football, so I'm all jacked. Like the season starts in 2 weeks. I can't wait. Football's back. Super fun. But been doing a bunch of like mock drafts and getting ready for fantasy football. And I know you guys aren't fantasy football guys, but what we're going to do is we are going to draft our best ofs. So let's start out here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to postpone that. Okay. We haven't talked poker and just a poker hand in a long time. Let's kick it off with the poker hand. Then we'll come back to some of this other stuff. We got all kinds of good stuff to get to. But I have one for you, but if you guys have one, I'd love to hear it.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Let me get my notes on it because I have my episode notes up. I got to get my hand notes out here. Okay. All right. I have pocket threes. I'm playing 3-5.
3-5.
And okay. My stack size, let me see here. My stack size is about 950.
Okay, so 3-5. You have 950.
950.
And
I have
pocket
threes. Yep. There are 2 limpers in front of me.
Limpity limp. Okay.
This table is calling raises. Like you can raise to absurd numbers, and they're like, "Yep, I'm still coming along."
Okay.
So Jess and I talked about this a little bit. Like when we were doing some coaching, I was like, "Hey, never limp," and because I wanted to build that muscle into you of like, just it never makes sense to just call. Like, don't limp. It doesn't make sense. I'm in position, and I decide, you know what? I'm going to limp this time because I know with these pocket threes. If I make it 20, if I make it 25, if I make it 30, I'm still getting callers.
Okay.
So rather than do that and set myself up to be potentially 3-bet, I'm going to this one time go ahead and limp and be able to call a raise. And if it goes to a huge raise, fine, I'll get out of the way. Because the table's straightforward, right? People are 3-betting aces and kings and nothing else pretty much. So I end up limping, which I basically never do. The button raises to $20. And I'm like, perfect, calls around, and I call to set mine.
Okay, so how many people are in? 4?
My notes, boy, I didn't write that down in the footage, but I believe we go 4 ways.
Okay, and your third act, second to last act.
That is here. You know what? I'm actually going to add this at the bottom of the screen.
Ooh, okay.
Well, and while you're doing that,
Easier to follow.
Sure.
Okay.
I think, yeah, like I think in instances like this, I mean, if you bump it up to whatever it is in a table which resembles our 1-2 tables here, you're gonna at least get 2-3 callers, and
Right.
then most flops, you're gonna be either doing really bad C bets or checking through and then folding. And I think it makes sense too with like if you're like in this kind of a position with like an A7 suited where you could limp and maybe you get a flush over flush. If you raise, you're gonna be it's just gonna be hard. Multiple players with like kind of like this mediocre hand most of the time. So I think it makes sense to me. There's just some times that are outside. When we're playing multi-way, it's just a little. It's not as optimal, I guess.
Yeah, I if I expected to get folds, then I think I would normally be raising. And this is the only limp I made. Excuse me. This is the only limp I made the entire night.
I'm not 100% convinced that the initiative is a real thing in poker. So I kind of think like a lot of these small pocket pairs, since okay, if you raise and 3 people call you and you don't make a set, like you're never betting, right? So I assume. So like how does the initiative help you in this particular case? Like I think it doesn't help you at all, right?
No, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say the only time I would, the incentive would be I want to raise this hand to take down the money that's on the table, right?
Right.
But if I know they're always going to call, there's not much incentive left.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like with multi-way pots, you just have to play more straightforward on the flop, like you can't be making moves. But if it's like, yeah, the higher stake game, like when you came down, Sean, it's like, it's usually like 2 players to a flop, maybe 3. But when it's heads up, then the initiative is huge, because like often neither is going to make a good hand, the flop comes.
Right.
But yeah, like I think at our stakes, it's like, it's helpful when you can kind of whittle it down. 3 betting, it makes sense, like taking the initiative. But
yeah. So it was one of those spots where I'm like, I almost never limp, but I'm like, I either need to fold. I can fold, limp, or raise, but if I'm going to raise, and I'm setting myself up to potentially get I'm probably setting more money on fire than I need to, because the goal is to flop a set or nothing. Anyway, so all right, let me adjust it. I'll add a flop on here.
Okay.
So now the flop comes down. Make sure I get the suits right and everything. Let's see. 3 of spades, 7 of hearts, 8 of diamonds. I'll add it up here. So flop is 3 of spades, 7 of diamonds, 8 of hearts.
8 of hearts. Okay.
Okay. And now so what do you guys want to do when it checks over?
Well, the button has the it's like there's either a natural check or a donk lead.
Right.
But the flop is so like good for all of the other players.
Yeah.
Naturally, the button is going to, I mean, yeah, in late position, he can have some sets himself, but he's going to check a lot of the time, with a lot of his hands. So do you really want to check this through? And there's there's straight draws available.
Really quick, Jess, before you go any further, I should have added this, but I have in my notes here, opponent is very aggressive. And when I say very aggressive, like playing tons of hands, and because he then he has to attack a lot more. So does that, I don't know if that changes anything, but
well, yeah, then you just have to kind of, I think you have to go with that. I mean, I think if it was like me that was on the button, you know, and this flop comes, I think you have reason to see bet or to bet. But otherwise, yeah, I mean, if he's that aggressive, you might get to check, see his bet, see what the action is, and then, you know, see if you want to call or raise.
Yeah, so I think here was my thought. I checked, but afterwards there's this thought in my mind of like, what if instead of checking in that spot, what if I put out a small bet, right?
Yeah.
One that's like, here, please take this bet
raise
away.
me. Yeah.
I think the only difference though is that when you make a small bet, he attacks and you call, that probably ends the betting, right? Like it's pretty unlikely that he's just going to be like, all right, then fire. If you bet, he raises, you call. He might fire one more bet, but I don't know. I was debating the merits of that, but in theory, if you check to them and they make an aggressive bet, I would think you're more likely to call once to that aggressive bet and check again. You're more likely to get them to bet again versus a bet, call the raise, and then what are you doing? You're probably checking, but now it looks stronger than if you just check and call, right?
Yeah.
So I think if they're bluffing, which they should be a lot of the time, this opponent, I think he's going to have he plays so many hands that I think he's going to have a pretty wide range, but I think he will have some. Oh, I should tell you also, his favorite hand is 7 deuce. So his favorite hand is 7 deuce. There is a 7 on the board. So when he likes to get wild, that's the hand he really enjoys. If he gets it, he plays it like it's aces. So all of that considered, that's kind of where we're at. So anyway, so I end up checking. He ends up betting $60 into 80.
Wow.
It goes fold, and it's back to me.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is the thing though, right? Like no matter what you do here, so you're basically in the same. So I kind of like the block bet idea because if you make it 20 and the guy makes it 90, and
yeah,
okay, I mean you could raise, right? Or you could call. Yeah, you're getting more money in, right? If you call this, well, if you raise this, then if he has ace jack offsuit, he's gonna fold.
Right.
But if you call this, he's got to know like you have something, either a really strong draw like a, I don't know, 5-6 or something, or you have probably 2 pair plus or ace 8 or something. Right? Pocket 9s.
Yeah, like,
well, no, you're probably not.
He kind of knows he's run into it. So
yeah,
I see what you're saying. So if you think we're only going to get potentially one bet anyway, yeah. So maybe you do go for that. Like, so what do you bet then? Like $20?
Yeah.
Okay. Because here was my thought. I thought, okay, logically, I checked to him here. He probably bets like $35-$40, and I'm going to make that call, and then I'm going to check to him again.
Okay.
So it did throw me when he bet 60. I'm like, well, he either has it,
right,
and we're going to be able to get multiple streets, or because this is a draw. You know, there's enough of a draw out there that I think he would fire again on the turn if he has an overpair or something.
Yeah.
Like he did raise, like he's going to have it once in a while. So
sure.
I ended up just check calling, and but I debated all these other options. The sizing was so big that I'm like, I'm not sure he's going to then just like commit his stack.
It's weird.
Because I think in theory he should have a lot of bluffs here. Go ahead, Jess. What were you going to say?
I mean, it's a weird spot because I mean, who knows? You can't. It's hard to get into a player like, you know, into his head. But if he bet 60 into 3 players on this flop, he's sort of like. I mean, it seems like that's a strong bet for somebody like this. Now, I mean, yeah, of course, you could have 9 jack and you know these straight draws and overcards and just like, okay, you know what, here I come. But the problem I think too is like, yeah, like Tom was saying, when you call it strong, when you raise it strong,
for sure.
But then also like there's a lot of overcards that could potentially kill the action, you know, that if he really has 7 deuce, if he really has like 8-7, or, you know, like hands that he's representing, like he has nines, tens, like he has an overpair and he's like betting to like drive out stuff. Then so you have a lot of cards that are not going to get a lot of action on the turn, and you've already kind of shown some strength, to call. So it's a weird spot, but it's a very weird spot because he like let out so strong multi-way, like that large sizing. But yeah, like maybe there's more to raising, and you guys are so deep, like.
But I guess what I would argue, and this is what was going through my head, is that all those overcards coming in, I would say that like a 9 or a 10 are pretty bad. You don't really want to see that because that's bad for his range. Well, as a pre-flop aggressor, it would be bad for his range that I'm calling and then a board comes in close to the straight. So like I don't really want to see like a 6, a 9, or a 10. I think that'd be bad. But all those overcards I think are perfect bluff candidates, or they may improve him to an ace king, ace queen, something like that, where now he has a pair that he was representing a hand. Now he actually made a hand. Now he's going to go for value. So I felt like there's a lot of ways he can continue on the turn. So that's why I just ended up calling.
Gotcha.
But I kind of like the idea of, it went through my head of, not at the time. It did not go through my head at the time of making that little blocker bet to see if he would raise. But I kind of like that line because of what we were talking about. It's going to look strong either way.
Right.
But if he doesn't bet $60 on the flop, then I think it's
that's the thing, right?
Easier to go check call.
Super polarized.
It is, right?
Now maybe like it was super polarized. Maybe he does this with pocket queens or something, and you could raise him here. The problem is you're going to fold out all of his bluffs, right?
That's the problem, and he has a lot of bluffs because he plays super wide.
But if you think so it kind of depends on whether I think it depends on whether you think that if you call this, if he'll ever put another dollar in the pot.
See, I thought he would because he's a very aggressive player.
Well, then you probably should do what you did then.
That's why I took the line.
Okay. So, makes sense.
Okay, so let me add the turn here, and I'll put the hand history back up.
Okay.
So, yeah, turn is the 7 of clubs.
Oh.
And his favorite hand is deuce 7.
Okay.
So
you checked.
I did. I checked, and I'm like,
praying
because I thought
7 deuce.
I thought if he has the hand, there's going to be fireworks, and that'll be fantastic.
Right.
If he doesn't have the hand, he often represents like he does because we all know he plays it. So I'm like, even like this is a great card for me because not only do I improve to an awesome hand and all that, but now it is the card that he loves to represent. So I'm like, the only other card that would be really good for me here would be a deuce, right? Where he'd be like, I have 2 pair, or I'm going to represent 2 pair. Anyway, so all right, so now I ended up checking again. Is that what you guys would do?
Yeah, of course.
I think if you think he's going to bet, then yeah, you should definitely check.
I did, and he checked, and I was like, no.
So I'm kind of thinking, okay, when he does this, you kind of probably have to bet the river.
Oh, for sure.
Right? You're going to have to bet the river.
Okay. Interesting, yeah.
And there's like 200 in, right? There's 200 in the pot.
Yep. So let me add river. So checks.
Yeah.
And then a straight inning card.
River is the queen of clubs. Okay. Yeah, that's better. There you go. So now river's the queen of clubs. We have about 200 in there. What are you going to bet? I think you could do so many things here. That's why I like this hand. I wanted to talk about it, but
okay, so he checked back, which kind of implies either he has complete garbage and he just thinks he's crushed, or he has showdown value of some kind, right? That's not great.
Yep.
So like 7 deuce. Or not 7 deuce, 8 deuce.
Yeah. Like he has a 8, he has like ace high that he's like, you know what, paired board, might just take this one down.
Yep.
So you could bet big and make it look like you're bluffing, but I don't know, like what does this guy think about you? Do you know?
We haven't played together a ton. He was in one of the previous episodes where he's the one that bluffs me with 7 deuce, like probably a year ago or something like that. I don't know if you remember that or not, but so we've played some hands, but we don't regularly play together. Like I know who he is and all that, but we don't play a ton of hands. I would say he probably has a pretty good idea of that I am capable, but that I'm not often out of line. You know what I mean? Like I run bluffs every session, but I'm not a wild player who's constantly bluffing. So I actually ended up running a bluff against this guy later and against him and another player in a spot that I was exactly right about where they were, but exactly wrong because they both made the call.
That's hilarious.
But anyway, that's for another time. But yeah, I would say he probably knows. He has a decent idea of who I am. I don't think he thinks I'm way out of line, but I think he should know I'm capable.
I think I would bet big-ish here.
Okay, what's biggish?
So like 125.
Okay, I mean that's
or
just
maybe 140, something like that.
Okay, so
pot,
like
but
60%
like,
maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
What?
It's
Well, what's the goal with a 140?
You make it look super bluffy.
Well, if we want to go super bluffy, don't we go even bigger than 140?
You could go like 250. But
Guess
the
what?
question is, are people balanced when they like? I mean, I don't know about your games, but in my games, if anybody bets, especially the river, if they bet more than pot, I don't know if I've ever seen anybody bluff more than pot.
See, but that's why the bluff works so well, because so few people do it, right?
Right.
Yeah.
But if your opponent is like, okay, this guy can't be bluffing because he bet more than pot, then he's not going to call you, right? So
I see what you're saying. If he's so used to not calling,
right.
Sure. Yeah, I could see that.
So if you had 3 deuce here, then yeah, maybe you should bet over pot. Actually, I was kind of thinking like in a future episode, we should probably talk about over betting because I don't know about your games, but we don't have them. I don't see people doing it.
It's what I've been studying lately. So
okay.
Hold on. I'm about to tell you about an overbet. Jess, what are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, it's too bad he checked back.
Yeah.
You know, and if he hit this queen, wonderful. You know, we didn't raise on the flop, so maybe he kind of discounts us having a boat now. So you know, I would just put in 150, and you know, he might kind of be questioning if we really have it and call us down light. Or if he hit this last card, like this card shouldn't hit us, and now we're betting big.
Right.
He might get curious, and you know, maybe he'll raise us. I mean, but yeah, I would just put in 150 and hope for the crying call most of the time. Yeah.
So if we're gonna try to get the crying call, I feel like we should go really big. So that was my thought. I went state max is 300. I bet 300.
Okay.
So I bet 150% basically, and he didn't think long before folding. But my other option in my mind was if he's going to have a lot of bluffs in his range, this would be a good spot to bet like 50.
Yeah.
And then give him some rope, right? And give him a chance. The other kind of the beauty behind that, if you bet 50, is occasionally he might shrug and call. You're still going to get some value.
Right.
But on the times where he doesn't have anything at all, he might go for it. So I think I like that line better than going really big and hoping he has something small that he's like, well, that queen doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you bet 300?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, I got a hand for you when it comes to inducing, but I mean, you know, I don't know. When he checks back, it seems like he's, you know, he does have some value. So I don't know if, like, if you bet 50 and he has 8-9, 8-10, or even if he has like ace jack, he will just call, you know?
Right. And that's why I went for the big. To your point, it seems more like that kind of capped showdown value, and that's why I went big. Of just like, can I get him to be like, that doesn't make sense, and throw the call in? But
yeah, it doesn't make sense, you know. It doesn't make sense.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, also like we play in different games, right? So like kind of like Tom, like in our game, if on the river somebody bets pot, it's like 9 out of 10 times the nuts.
Yeah.
So it's just a
That's
different
usually
game.
true in most games too. I mean, until you get up to higher stakes. Even at
Yeah.
higher stakes, a lot of people still can't bluff. So.
Yeah, and I mean, usually against aggressive players, like they like to be the ones to like. So either you have a guy that's like aggressive, playing too many hands and
Yeah.
pushing them, and then also calling down really like some big bets. So he might be just hemorrhaging money, you
Right.
know, a ton because he's doing both. Like usually, like aggressive players will just like want to be aggressive and then know when to like, okay, it's over. You know, they're
Yeah.
pushing back.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. All right, I'll take this hand off, and you said you have one, Jess. Let's hear it.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Okay, this is just a fun one, and Tom may have heard this earlier, but let's see. So I'm in the hijack. I have pocket kings, king of spade, king of hearts, and we have about 300 effective, and let's see. So middle position limps.
You're playing 1-2, is that correct?
Yeah, playing 1-2.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay.
So middle position limps, and then it comes to me. 15 is the standard open without limpers.
So middle position limps. Okay.
Yeah. So obviously I'm going to raise, and I instead of 15, I bump it up to 20.
Okay.
And there's one caller, the cutoff. So I don't have position in this hand. Everybody else folds. So there's 45 in the pot. And the flop is jack of clubs, 8 of clubs, 5 of clubs.
Okay, jack of clubs, 8 of clubs, 5 of clubs.
Correct.
Okay, I'm going to add it to the screen here. Okay. That'll look right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, and we lost middle position. Pot is $45.
Yeah.
And so action starts on you. Okay.
Yeah. I have no club.
You have no club. Okay. Well, I would be, I mean, this is a spot where, I think it's a really good board to bluff on when you have something like if you have like ace king with no clubs, but right now you have showdown value, and this is probably not a hand I'm going to turn into a bluff. So I'm probably just checking this. Tom, you have any difference of opinion?
I'd wait to see the next card.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like speaking of, I think you said in the your last vlog that like, you know, who are the influencers in your game? And the first person that came to my mind was Dan Harrington. You know, I read his books,
Oh yeah,
and very helpful. And he would say like on these, you know, suited flops, usually the first one who bets kind of takes it
wins.
down.
Yep.
So, but you're right. Yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say that I have read that same book and I totally agree. But when you have such strong showdown value, I think you have to make an adjustment and not put this one into that category.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I did not do that. I mean, I checked. I was like, okay, I'm still happy with my hand. And also when I check, I'm out of position. And when I check to him, he's going to be more likely to make mistakes. You know, like he could have ace, whatever, jack, and be like, or ace 10, you know, like not have anything and just be like, oh, you know, let me just take this.
Our friend watches Hungry Horse Poker.
What's that?
Our friend watches Hungry Horse Poker because that's what Hungry Horse Poker said. He says that people react way better to people betting than they do to people checking. People bet too much when they get checked to. So they make
the appropriate. They pick the appropriate answer, the choice when they're being bet to. Like they'll fold like a lot of their garbage, but when they get checked to, they don't always like get in the same. So yeah, and especially out of position, I like to keep a strong range there. So, anyways, I check and he checks back. Checks back. Checks back. So we go 45 is in the pot still. The turn card is so we have Jack of clubs, 8 of clubs, 5 of clubs, 4 of diamonds. 4 of diamonds.
Okay. All right. So 45 in the pot and 3 clubs and a diamond. Okay. This is a spot where, so based on hit, like he should be incentivized to, if he has complete air, to stab at this once in a while. But would you say this opponent's capable of doing that? Because I mean, there's people at a 1-2 table that they wouldn't know what they should do if it was a brick hitting him in the side of the head, right? So
this guy, he came to tell you what I know. He came to the table. He had a hoodie on. He was like a big guy. He had headphones on, like he was gonna get ready to like spend the night there, if needed. Like he seemed so just, and then I thought I had seen him around before. So when I think I recognize somebody and then they're kind of in that, looking like that, I think, okay, they've played some poker. And so but I don't remember anything else, like any previous hands or anything with him. He just seemed familiar. So he seemed like he could be a decent player is what I thought.
Okay. I think my mind is at this point, what's checking back logically, if he's capable, should be a fair amount of showdown value, should be some hands containing a single club, should be some like pocket pairs, some Jack X, stuff like that has showdown value, that doesn't want to inflate the pot and is happy just to try to get there and see if they can pull this in. So my mindset would be, let's go smallish and see if we can get 2 streets without getting raised. And the moment we get raised, I'm willing to give up. But I think Jack X here, you want some protection also with these kings, right? Because the 4th club comes in and you lose to anything, right? You lose to like 4-3 offsuit with the 3 of clubs, right? So like I wouldn't want to see, not that he has that, I'm just saying you're losing to trash at that point. So I would probably put in a bet of like $20 here, and so go a little less than half, since you took the flop off, and just see what he does. I think you'll get called a fair amount of the time. And then on the river, I would go for like an additional bet that's also small relative to the pot. And if you get raised, you get raised, and you can get away from it. That's my mindset if I'm in your spot here.
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
Okay. So in my mind, I thought, okay, 45 in the pot, 4 diamond comes. I bet 25.
Okay, and, yeah, I like that.
Yeah, and I think like, I guess holding the kings, I'm like, okay, what could kill action is an ace. Now the board has straightened a little bit, so ace, 6, 7, club. So actually, there's a lot there that a lot of cards that could come on the river that could make it more challenging to get money. But I like my hand, of course, and so I bet 25, and he calls.
Okay.
He calls, so he didn't raise, so he was not like slow playing a flush, a made flush. So I discount all of that. I mean, even his check back on the flop. So, okay. So there's 95 in the pot.
Okay.
And we go to a river card, and it's the 6 of hearts. So now we have Jack, 8, 5, 4, 6, 3 clubs, and 4 to a straight. And it's on me.
Oh, this is unfortunate because I think, sadly, you can't get called by a jack anymore. I mean, could you? Maybe, but it's going to be hard to get value from worse now because the flush. The only thing is, like, you don't really have the flush, right? when you go when you check the flop, you almost never have the flush. So now he's not super scared of the flush necessarily, but there's a lot of like ugly two pairs. There's there's some weird sets that are there that are not going to be, they're probably going to reluctantly throw it in, and your hand just doesn't want to polarize. I don't know. That's my opinion. So you're in a spot where it's hard to get thin value and you don't want to polarize. That's my read, Tom.
Okay, I'm just gonna ask Jess a question. If you had a flush, would you have bet the flop?
Well, like I'm out of position, I would, even a small flush, I would check. And if it was a small flush, I would check raise. And if it was like the nut flush, I would probably, I mean, it's hard for him to continue with the check raise, I would call. But yeah, I always, I mean, he hasn't played a lot of hands with me. So I think Sean, like he would think the way Sean does, like, oh, well, he won't have it. But yeah, I mean, I'm usually checking all my, flops, and especially like a strong one, out of position.
So you could have much better hands here.
Yeah, and then I would want to get value on the turn, and then here we are on the river. So
okay, so I probably would just check.
Here's the thing: are you planning to call a bet when you check, or are you check folding if he bets?
If he bets small, I would call.
Okay. What if he bets, so pot's 90? What if he goes like $40?
Yeah, I would probably call. Because I think, well, okay, it kind of depends. Like, where are we in our distribution, right? I mean,
we're way far away from the top.
Well, yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, I guess if he's checking all his flushes, like if you could get here with a boatload of flushes and some sevens, and then I don't know, maybe like
but you wouldn't check again though, right? On the river.
Oh yeah, that's
so
true.
all your flushes
are
gone.
We might be near the top of our distribution then. If we had a 7, are we gonna bet?
Oh, by the time we check, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Sure. But I wouldn't. You're talking like MDF, right? Minimum defense frequency, and how often we need to defend. I don't know that I would use that against a player at a 1-2 game very often.
Okay.
Only because like they're not exploiting you, right? So like, you don't have to think in terms of MDF. You're better off to just be like, okay, they're only betting with these, therefore I need to fold.
Right. Yeah.
So I think I would either say I'm calling if they bet small and I would make the bet, or I would check with the plan to fold.
What would you bet?
Like 30, 35, something like that. Where like go really small, and if you get raised, fold. But this is probably a spot where I think he's going to check back a lot. I'm fine with like a small bet. 30, 35 would be okay.
So I bet $95, and I thought
you bet $95.
No, pot's 95.
Oh, pot's 90. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, in the moment I thought, oh damn. Well, now like I guess you could have a 7, 8, 7, or 8, 7 something like. That could make sense, and I thought, well, that's not great. But then I also thought, I could have the best hand here a lot of the time. Like a lot of the time, he could call on the turn with a club, like the ace of clubs or king of clubs, and just kind of wanting to see it. And he's in position and doesn't really have much. He may not have anything. And so I was like, not obviously. I don't feel like, oh, I got the nuts here or anything. I was like, I still think I can be ahead enough, and I might get, some calls here, and had another idea too. So I decided 95. I bet $20. So small bet.
Wow, it's really small. I feel like you're almost begging for a raise though at that point. Is that so? What are you going to do if he raises you?
Yeah, well. So I thought, if he had some weak value, he'll just kind of throw the chips in. But I was curious. As to what he would do, because it's a weird bet, right? And I also went lower than my last bet, and I'm aware of that. Right. And I thought he was a good player, right? So I thought he would be aware of that. So when I make the bet, he looks at the board. He is looking at it for a while, and then he's like fidgeting his chips. Like I could see these wheels moving,
Yeah.
you know? And then he looked over at me, and when he was doing this fidgeting and looking, like he looked like he was how some of us do sometimes, trying to be creative, you know, like he looked like he was in a creative space. And so then when he looked, I was just watching, like almost like this, you know,
Yeah.
not like this, not with my hand there, but I was like watching, and he looked at me, and I was like, oh yeah, I shouldn't look so comfortable, or whatever.
Right.
So, but then he's like still like thinking, and then because I thought he was a good, you know, like so then I had that thought like he might try to get me off this hand, like I might induce him.
Right.
So this is the thought with inducing. Like I thought he was a good player, so I couldn't. You can induce a good player, not like a player that doesn't think about those things, but he's thinking, oh, he's weak. Let me just like get him off. This is so scary. So he bet 100. He raised me to 100. You know, like I put 20 in. Is he really wanting to call when he puts in 100? So he slides in his stack like this, and I throw a chip, and the chip goes all over. Goes on the table. I was so ready. I was like, it was just sort of like maybe how Doug says, like Doug McCusker, this other vlogger, who says we mentioned Hungry Horse in his hand and Doug, so we could be called like the vlog that props up all the other vlogs, you know, like. But anyway,
so you chuck a chip in because you're kind of like seeing the art. You're visualizing him putting on his hat. He suddenly sounds French. He's got a little bit of an accent while he's grabbing his 100.
Yeah,
I will bet 100. Okay.
Yeah, it didn't because like we already discounted the flushes, right?
Right.
We already discounted. He can't have flushes. Like in my head, there's no way he has like.
I don't think he does. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I think he raises on the turn. He bets on the flop. Makes no sense. I
would agree with
why
that.
would he induce with like? So like we already can take out these really strong hands, and then he's like. So I had that in my head, you know. I was so.
But
thankful.
Is this the part of the game tree you were trying to get to? Like, are you hoping to get to where he raises you? Because I feel like you're not, right? Was that your thought?
That was the thing at the turn, you know. So I bet 25. He calls.
Yeah.
And then when I'm sitting there thinking about my bet size, I had that thought. I said, you know, I think he's a good player. I can bet small. Maybe he chucks some of his hands. Maybe he calls some of his value, but I could induce him. Like that's why I went. I would never go under.
But do you want to induce? Like you're not near the top of your range, right? Like
I know it's not
so
the ideal hand. It's not like I have like a really strong hand, but I guess in my head I thought he just had nothing, and it's dangerous because he could have like 8-6, 8-4. He could have like a lot of two pairs that beat me. So it wasn't like it wasn't the best hand.
Probably not raising those, but yeah, his club combos or his 7x or whatever is. The funny thing is that you may have induced a spot you didn't really necessarily want. That's what's cracking me up. Okay, so you bet 20, he goes to 100.
Yeah.
You chuck the chip in with supreme confidence. Yep. The poker prodigy is making the call. And you find out he has.
Yeah. He says you're good, and he just
Nice work, Jess.
Yeah,
nice.
It's a good hand review because you're right. It's not like the best hand. Like so confident and trying to get it into stuff. Like how almost like so many cards could just two pairs could just I could be inducing myself, But
the best, but my favorite part of this is like. What was it? It was probably 3 months ago that I was like, Jess, I think you're getting very artistic and creative or whatever it was. But now you're recognizing the artist in other people.
I saw it.
Guys getting too creative.
Yeah, I think that's like, it's interesting because like that inducing, and then also like when I've been doing this at the table where when I sit down after like, I don't know, 30 minutes, I start to try to think who do I think this is at 1-2? You know, who do I think the thinking players are? The players that are like kind of thinking about my actions and my range, because then also those are the players that I can bluff. You know,
Sure.
like I don't want to be bluffing people that are like just there to, you know, they may call me with like, you know, like a medium pair that beats me. So, so I've kind of been more focused on that, profiling.
Nice. Well, that's pretty cool. I would say that it's probably not a line I would ever choose to take, but I'm glad it worked out for you. Like I think you almost induced something you didn't necessarily want, but at the same time you managed to get it against the right guy and identify the spot. So
yeah, I think it was a weird spot, and I think also if his behaviors were different, would I fold? You know, like
right, but and you don't really want to fold. That's where I would probably bet that 35, so you're not inducing the creativity.
yeah,
But
it was interesting for sure.
Yeah. Max is here. Hey Max, how's it going? Yeah, it's going well, man. We're just catching up. We're going through some hands. Jess is telling us how he's going through some like wizard moments here, whether they're intentional or not. He's figured out how to do some stuff. All right. Hey, we were just about to we did our second hand here. We were about to play a little game. So let's get into it. We're going for the like fantasy football draft kind of mode with things that aren't really football related, okay? But these are just you got to draft your best of. You get to choose between these two. So
Okay.
in round number 1, you get to choose between for your very best ofs on your roster, watermelon on a hot day or hot chocolate on a cold day. What are you throwing on the best ofs roster?
For me, easy choice. Watermelon on a hot day.
Okay. Jess, you agree? Ooh, deep in the tank on this one.
It's I mean, because I live in Texas, I guess I have to go with watermelon. Get a lot more hot days here. So
You don't have a choice.
I'm also like used to being hot too, so it's like
okay.
Yeah, but I think I'll vote for that. Let's go for that.
Yeah, I have to go watermelon on a hot day too. Hot chocolate on a cold day, like pretty nice, but hot chocolate is not the thing I want as much as I want coffee.
I want soup.
Right. Yeah.
Soup's your go-to? Okay. All right, right on. All right, so we all take watermelon in the first round. Round number 2 of the draft. We're going fantasy football or pumpkin spice anything. Which one of those two are more enticing to you guys? I feel like pumpkin spice in the fall, like just you're finding it in like Kool-Aid now, and like people are just like, what else can we introduce this into? But so it's everywhere, but whatever you like, pumpkin spice or fantasy football, which one?
I like pumpkin spice. It's okay. So
Okay.
I guess I'd choose pumpkin spice.
Okay.
I'm not super enthusiastic about it, but like a cookie or something, it's fine.
Oh yeah, there's some good ones out there.
Yeah,
Jess?
I guess since I don't play fantasy football, I'll go with the pumpkin spice.
Let me ask you a question about
Understood.
fantasy football.
Yeah.
So how much better do you think? Let's say the Jason Kuhn of fantasy football. How much better is that guy? Like, I understand like there's these things where like it's 10,000 entries or something, right? Or
right.
a million entries or whatever.
Well, there's like the daily fantasy stuff, but most of us are getting like a league with our friends or something, right? Where you're playing against 10 to 12 guys.
So maybe that's a better one. So like if you studied this intently, and you put in say 5 hours a week, and the other guys were not serious and they put in like 1 hour a week.
Yeah.
Like how, assuming everybody was equally knowledgeable about like sort of the basics of the game, how much money would you expect to make? Like what would your ROI be?
I have no idea. I've never thought of it to that depth, but I would say that it does make a pretty big difference for people. Like I have a friend who is very, very into fantasy, like can pull up 40 leagues on his phone. And
holy cow.
I would say on average, his processes within the game are at a much higher level than most people I know. So
Okay.
he's going to probably win more leagues than the average person. But it's a huge thing about chance and luck and health and all those things,
Sure.
right? Like,
Yeah.
oh, this guy, the coaching staff recognized him. They elevated this guy up. He's getting all the opportunity. Now he's a stud when he wasn't before or whatever.
Right.
Situations, coaching changes, all that stuff makes a big difference. I would say the skill comes in like identifying like, oh, this is going on. The probability is higher that this guy, when you're better at like picking out who you think's going to be there, what rookies are going to have a good year, things like that. I think some people are just more into that, but yeah, it's there's a lot of luck, but skill definitely makes a difference. And the amount of time you put into it, like following which player and which kind of what kind of league you have.
He must be putting a lot of time into it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I assume this guy's not married.
I don't think so. I don't know for sure off the top of my head. Good question. All right, I'm taking fantasy football that round. I love fantasy football. Can't wait for it to start. All right, next one is, which one would you rather take? The Super Bowl or the WSOP final table?
Which one I would rather
You're going to watch one. You're going to watch one.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not win it. It kind of sounded, I meant like, which one are you putting onto your roster of best ofs? Watching the Super Bowl or watching WSOP final table?
I'm not really interested in tournament poker, so I would definitely choose the Super Bowl.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's the Super Bowl. We watch with family, and everybody gets together, and so I would choose that too.
Yeah, me too. I love poker, love watching the final tables, but I will choose the Super Bowl. It's a more of a fun event. Because you can't be like, hey, come on over, everybody, for a World Series of Poker and 9 hours of final table. Nobody's coming over to join you for that. So,
sure.
I have to agree with that one. How, Tom? So I am curious. Like, I've seen the like search engine concentrations of Super Bowl, where like in America, we're like, oh yeah, everybody watches the Super Bowl, but then you just see that it's like it's all in America, and there's just a few like.
Oh, there are a lot of people in Canada. I mean,
that are into it and watching it and stuff.
Okay, so let's say from where I am, it's a 30-minute car ride to I don't know if it's Pontiac Stadium still in Detroit. You go to Buffalo, it's going to be a few hours.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Right. So
yeah,
for all the ones that are like on the borders, like people in Vancouver, British Columbia, like the Seahawks, like sure, there are a lot of football fans in Canada.
Oh, that makes sense. Do you okay, really quick, we got to sidetrack to this question, then we'll get back to drafting, but the CFL, like I know of all these players that like go off to play in the CFL. How popular is the CFL in Canada? Because, down here we watch a tiny bit of it on occasion when there's nothing else on.
I would say there is fewer. The stadiums for a CFL game are much smaller than, say, a mid-level college game in the United States.
Right.
So I'm not talking like Texas A&M or something like that, right? I'm just talking about like some mid-level college where you can get, say, 30,000 people in a stadium or 40,000 people. You're not going to get that very often in the CFL.
Like, let's say you go to the poker table. How often can you? I don't even know the Canadian teams, but like you name you're like, oh, you guys catch the something game? Like, how many people are like, yeah, I was watching.
Where I play, there's probably more Detroit Lions fans than there are, even amongst the Canadians. I would say there's more Detroit Lions fans than there are, let's say, Hamilton. So the Tiger Cats, for example.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Because Detroit's closer, and also it's the NFL, right?
Yeah. I worked with the Canadian a few years ago, and he would huge mistake. And he would go up and he would like see games and stuff, and there were players from our area that went to school in the area in college and then didn't make it to the NFL but made the CFL, and so he'd go watch them play and stuff like that. But,
sure. Okay. Occasionally there'll be some guy from the CFL that breaks out and then ends up playing in. As a superstar in the NFL, like Warren Moon, for example.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sure if that guy had played his entire career in the NFL, he would hold like a lot of the records that, say, Peyton Manning has. I'm sure of it. Like, he was really, really good in the CFL, but he lost like a whole bunch of seasons, right?
Sure.
So
he was good. I mean, I grew up in Houston, so I saw him play for a lot of seasons. I watched this on Netflix, Last Chance U. Just recently, and it's like a a community college where people that are playing in the they're supposed to be playing Division I football, but they have like academic issues or other issues or something, and they kind of come back down. And like this community college is like the best community college. Like they get national championships in community college football, So like they get all the ones from like Division I that want to like get back because that's what they do.
Right.
And it was really good. And then a lot of them did go to the CFL because like they just weren't quite NFL ready.
Right.
But we're, yeah.
I haven't seen that one. You know what I did just watch? We're way off topic, but we'll get back to it. I did just watch the 30 for 30 on the 86 Mets. Have you guys seen that by any chance?
Oh, I missed that.
No, I have not.
It's worth a watch. It's kind of wild. They're talking about all the drugs they used to do. Like both they'd finish a game, they'd go out and party in New York City, they would do drugs, they would do all these things. But then when they got into the locker room, the like equipment managers were like handing out speed to the players, and they're just like putting them in their water bottles, and like so they're all on drugs while they're playing the 86 season, and no one's sleeping, and it's wild. It's
wow.
I didn't know that story, but
Wow.
pretty fun. All right, let's get back to it. All right, so we're drafting the best of. I got a few more for you. So investment wise, which one are you taking? Nvidia or Bitcoin?
Oh.
Draft one onto your roster. And you do not get the other one at all.
Yeah, I'll take Nvidia.
Me too, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Probably.
Okay. I'm going Bitcoin.
I don't know. It might be overpriced now because the whole world loves it.
That's what I think.
Okay, one thing I don't understand about cryptocurrencies: what stops somebody from inventing Bitcoin 2.0, which is just somehow objectively a better version of Bitcoin?
There's nothing that's man, we are way off this game, but that's okay. I like these discussions. There's nothing that stops them from doing it, but it has what do they call it? Prime mover advantage or whatever, first move, whatever it is, where you are the first one in the space.
Sure.
It has the ability to be modified by the community through that open sourcing, and so it has the potential to improve as it goes. So anything that it really lacks, which could be found potentially, could then be added to it or updated with it, right? So I don't think anything comes along to replace it. That said, who knows what's going to happen with crypto? We won't go down this rabbit trail, but I think there's a whole digital currencies of the the US dollar and Canadian dollar and all that stuff that's coming, and
for sure,
I think that'll be a pretty weird world to live in. But
yes.
All right, let's not go down that too far. Let's go back to drafting. I got 4 more for you. We're still investing stocks or real estate over the next 2 years.
2 years?
2 years, stocks or real estate.
So I'm buying a REIT. Is that what you're saying?
No.
Or a specific piece of real estate?
Well, you could buy a REIT, but I'm saying buy like a rental property or buy the stock market over the next 2 years. Like I'll give you whatever chunk of money you need for it. In for this theory, right? You get $500,000. You can put it on real estate or the stock market. Where are you gonna put it?
Canadian real estate is ridiculously priced.
Okay.
I lived in a small town right on the border. Like I could see America from like across the St. Lawrence. And so I would travel to the small town. Like my wife and I would go to America to buy groceries because it's cheaper.
Okay.
Even with the crappy Canadian dollar, it's cheap. Everything is cheaper in the United States. Houses were like, even taking into account the like same quality house, right? Americans make more money than Canadians on average. You guys have a better dollar, and still our houses are more expensive than yours, probably by like 30%. So like there's only so much rent you can charge somebody.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
Until they're broke, like they can't pay the rent. So
okay.
So like an example would be the condos right next to. There are new condos that are being built. Well, have been built, and they're
right next to your mansion there behind you.
Right next to my mansion. Yes, that's right. And so they go for about 600,000, and they're getting rented out for a condo.
Oh wow.
Yeah, about 600. It depends on the floor, but the higher the floor, the more it is. But on average, it's about 600,000. And And the rents they're charging are like $2,200 a month. You're not
Are
going to
these?
get your $600,000 back at
Yeah.
$2,200 a month.
Is that 2,200 because of like rent controls or something?
No, it's just
No, that's
people
just what.
can't pay more.
Yeah, sure, okay. Huh.
So for sure, I would take the stock market over Canadian real estate. Now, American real estate, I know a tiny bit about it. It seems like a lot better deal,
Right.
but
Still hard to make a cash flow if you're coming in with nothing. But if you have $500,000, yeah, then you have the cash flow.
Yep.
Jess, what would you do? Stocks, real estate?
Yeah, I guess I would do real estate.
Okay.
And you give me $500,000, so I have to, yeah, I think that makes sense. I have to, maintain the upkeep of the home if it's a rental home and pay the fees, but then I get some rent back, and then the house appreciates over 2 years. I get that as well. So yeah, I get maybe. I mean, it's hard because if there's a lot of closing fees or whatever, like
Sure.
I would take a lot of the.
Mhm.
But to not get into too much of specifics, so yeah, maybe the real estate.
Yeah, if I had the $500,000 ready to go right now, and I had to choose one, I would choose the real estate just to get that check. I think stocks are in for a bumpy ride over the next few months, but we'll see. I just think volatility and uncertainty in general and tend to be bad for the market, right?
Mhm.
And I think there's just a lot of it that's already there and more that's coming. So
Yeah,
stocks are feeling like not the place I want my money over the next 2 years. But I'm still going to play the stock market. I'll still have stocks, but of the two, I'd say I'd rather have the consistent rent check coming in. So, all right, I know how you guys are going to answer this one, but I'm going to ask you anyway. PLO or Hold'em? Which one are you drafting?
So I can only play one for the rest of my life.
No. You're just which one is better? You're getting the
Oh.
best ofs.
Well, I know more about Hold'em, so I guess I would pick Hold'em.
Yeah. Jess, I'm assuming you would choose the same. I'm surprised you're thinking about this much.
I think PLO is there's like it's very conflicted, because PLO, I feel like you have more information, more cards, all of the things that are important to Hold'em are just kind of heightened with PLO. But also you have to be like even more able to accept these ebbs and flows. Like, I feel like I can take it now with Hold'em, but it's brutal, man. It's like it's even more brutal. Like, do I have that? But if we were just gonna like pick a game to play, like not just now because I suck at PLO right now, but if we were gonna like, okay, this is the game that everybody's gonna play. I mean, I'd probably do PLO just because I feel like there's I feel like there's like an extra skill to it that would go in my direction in the long run, and all those reasons I play poker, and like discipline and patience and kind of not getting so results oriented, like it has that too, and extra. Like I don't know if I'm ready for that, but it has it. So yeah, it's just that nobody plays it, here, and I wouldn't feel comfortable like playing it against the small pool that plays it now.
Sure.
I would say if let's say, okay, so linking back to the previous question, if you gave me $500,000 and at the end of 2 years I had to give you back the $500,000 or whatever I had left.
Okay.
And so if I lost, I'd play PLO with it.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Like
you would use that money to learn PLO and learn how to play it.
Yeah. And then you could play, because I kind of suspect, I mean, I could be wrong, but I kind of suspect that the average knowledge of a person that first of all, I think the more gambly types are going to play PLO if they have a chance.
They do.
Right? They do. And I would think that the learning curve for PLO is probably on average is going to require less time to move up stakes than it would for Hold'em, because people I played Hold'em more, and it's maybe a little more, I don't know, like solvable, like calculable for a human.
Interesting. Yeah, I'm surprised. I kind of thought you guys would just be like, hold them. But
No, I mean,
I like your answers. I think it's
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think also like I don't know, man. PLO is always a show. I think like when I sit down
yeah,
at
it
the
is.
table, there's always a show, and so that's
Oh
nice.
yeah.
But Hold'em, it could just be like full, raise fold, like
Yep.
that sort of
Yep.
thing. So you sit down, and yeah. No, I see the beauty in the game for sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty addicted at this point, and I'm like missing playing it live. I'm taking PLO for sure. It's what a fun game, man. I've just been grinding it on Poker Bros nonstop. I can't stop playing. It's so fun, and I'm sure my hourly like wouldn't be great if I was playing like a huge game, but to play on there, it's fine and it's a lot of fun. So, all right, I got two more for you. These should be pretty quick, but drafting our choices, the favorite ones, Cheerios or Fruity Pebbles. When it comes to cereal, which one would you take? Do you, and Tom, I don't know in Canada, like, is there any chance you don't have one of those? I know you have Cheerios, but do you have Fruity Pebbles in Canada?
I think we probably have it.
Okay.
It sounds disgusting. So I would probably choose Cheerio. I would probably choose almost anything over Fruity Pebbles.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I like
Jess?
Raisin Bran, so that'll tell you something about me.
I do too, actually. Jess?
If I didn't factor in my health, I would choose Fruity Pebbles. I would choose Fruity Pebbles. It's like a dessert. It's like a dessert. That's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah. As a kid, when that bag of Fruity Pebbles showed up, it was just like, oh my gosh, it's like ice cream for breakfast. You're just, it was gone.
For us, it was Fruit Loops. You guys have Fruit Loops down there, right?
It's like the same thing, basically. Yeah.
Fruity Pebbles is like more. It's like more sugary or more.
Yeah, you get more sugar per surface area.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Fruit Loops has like more grain in there. Fruity Pebbles is like forget all that.
Yeah. Throw that out the window. We got to compete with Lucky Charms. More sugar.
Yeah, pure sugar. That's right.
Yeah. All right, final one: chess or poker? I wanted to hear this from you, Tom.
Okay, so if I could only play one game for the rest of my life, it would not be close. It would be chess for sure.
Okay, I figured.
Yeah.
Okay, Jess, I'm assuming that you're taking poker, but I don't know with absolute certainty.
Yeah, no, I would do poker.
Okay.
I was telling this to everybody, but it's like online chess is like way more addictive than live poker. It's not even close. It's not even close. And I mean, it's like me and when I had a personal trainer, we would like he'd be up to like 4 a.m. Like playing online chess. So like it's Wow. And then I'd be up to like 1. It's just like a very I'm not good at it, but it's definitely fun. But no, poker for like I like the social grouping and all of that, so I would definitely choose that.
Yeah. Do you play the like day per move version online and stuff?
Oh,
like chess.com or something like that.
Yeah, chess.com and just like 5-minute games.
Oh, you play the like turbo games.
Yeah.
Oh, cool. Nice. All right.
Let me ask you a question about a poker question that's sort of related to chess. So when I used to play in a lot of chess tournaments, at the end of the tournament, whether I did well or poorly, like how do I put this? Colors were way brighter when I was playing. And then when the tournament was over and I would like, let's say go home, the world seemed kind of drab, right? Like there's like some kind of like
it's almost like a high to it.
Yeah. So there were like the world is kind of like, instead of being bright, it was kind of like the tones were subdued. Do you find the same thing happens to you when you play poker?
Well, see, I don't use drugs when I play poker, so
you don't put a little speed in your water.
No, I think I know what you're saying. I can't say I've ever been like, oh, the colors are brighter, but I feel like you're in that moment needing more detail from your brain and more attention from your brain, and there is kind of like this elevated, especially if I'm playing a tournament, I feel like it's even more heightened where yeah, you're like you this moment matters much more. Whereas a cash game, like I can sit down to the cash game today, tomorrow, the next day, whatever. So that moment is not as impactful.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, in tournament poker, yeah, there's more of like I think it's why it's so fun to play tournaments and why people seek them out is because of that. Like there's something on the line other than just money, right? The money, like we talk about the money, like that's why we're playing. We all want the big score. We all want to hit it, but there's something that's so like fun and rewarding about like, dude, I am outlasting hundreds of people right now and getting into this spot or thousands, so I used to years ago, I used to play a game that was, if you ever want to just like, you want the ladies to really be like after you and just so excited, you play a game called Magic the Gathering.
There are loads of poker players, that are good Magic the Gathering players. Jonathan, what's his name? Jonathan Little talks about this all the time.
Oh, really? I haven't heard
Little
talk about it.
Well, he was one of them. He made the leap from, I don't know if he was like professional level Magic the Gathering, but he was evidently very good. And he said that like a lot of the same skills for Magic the Gathering are for poker, right?
It like directly translates. This is the reason I got into poker. Jurrit von Hof, nobody knows his name, but he was a Magic guy that started playing. He made the final table in 2012 or 13 or something like that, and he was like the chip leader at the final table, right? And he's got this cheering section behind him and all this stuff, and he was a phenomenal poker player. So. But it was all that skill set that was set up. The point I was trying to get to, that game runs tournaments of thousands and thousands of people will show up, right? And friends and I used to travel and go play these things. And it's like the money at the end if you win. Like I had a friend win a Grand Prix, and I think Grand Prix, you're looking at a couple thousand people that he outlasted. I think he made $10,000 or $20,000 at the end. Like, so the money is not worth. The payoff is not worth the juice is not worth the squeeze or whatever you would say, but really it's the experience that's worthwhile. So to your point about the chess tournaments, I felt that much more in those tournaments, but I still feel it in a poker tournament because this moment matters so much. And the next hand builds on that last hand. And if that one didn't work, then this one wouldn't be possible. And like, so I would agree with you there. I don't know. Jess, do you have any thoughts?
I mean, I bet, Sean, like even when you when you travel and you play cash games, but you're like traveling to a different place and you have like a day or two or three or something, like do you feel like that's the same kind of, you get in that place?
Yeah, it is more. Yeah,
it is
for
more,
sure. Because it's such a unique experience. And it is kind of like a little bit of a high almost. So
yeah.
All right. Well, Jess has a game that we're going to play at some point. Do we want to do another hand? Do you guys have another hand you want to talk through first? Or do you want to go?
Let's do this game. Let's do this game.
All right.
Let's
do it.
We have to get into it. Okay. Poker-related game. Okay. So, and Jennifer's father, Barry, he's the one that thought of the game. So, giving the credit to where it's due. Okay. So you find yourself in a high-stakes poker game, heads-up poker game.
Heads up, okay.
And you find yourself there, and you're using your own bankroll, and it's going to be a significant percentage of your bankroll. So you're motivated to win here. Okay. And it's heads up, and you have the choice of your opponent, and there's 4 choices to sit across from you.
Jess, really quick, can I clarify? Are you going to play these in order, right? You have to play all of them at some point. Is that the challenge?
No, you don't have to play them. You
play one
pick who you want to play, and then you can rank kind of like, well, if I took this guy's stack, or if I felt, what would your order be in wanting to play? Like, who would you want to play in order from 1 to 4?
Okay. So it's not like you play them. Then if you win, you move on. This is just put them in order of who you'd want to play the most versus the least. Okay.
Yeah, because you could just play the first guy, double up or quadruple up, and then leave. But just for curiosity, like what would your rankings be? Okay. So here we go. So so 1, Joe Biden. 2, Donald Trump.
Okay.
3, Barack Obama. And 4, Kamala Harris. So these are the 4. They all, you assume, to the best of your knowledge, nice screenplay there. So you assume, to the best of your knowledge, that they all have the same fundamental poker foundation, basic poker understanding.
Okay.
And they each have been given 2 weeks to prepare. However, that person would prepare, like, for 2 weeks to get ready for this game.
Okay,
so they start with the
they get to
basic
drop
poker.
all their responsibilities and just go prepare for poker for 2 weeks.
Yeah, this is like they're on a hiatus or something, and
Okay.
they're just doing this for fun and whatever it is. So this is the premise, and so I'd like to start with our Canadian friend
Okay.
on the other side of the border to give his perspective first. Tom, who would you most like to play?
I think there's a pretty big gap between number 1 and number 2. Definitely would be Joe Biden.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's because I'm not sure he would be able to remember anything. Like, he could spend 2 weeks learning stuff, and then he just doesn't know anything by the time the 2 weeks are done.
I think if you put him and a goldfish on the list, I'm not sure which one I would choose. It'd be one of the, but it'd be about the same, right? You're like, okay, well, neither of them's going to know what they're doing. They're both going to be lost. They're both going to blink a lot. And by the end of the match, one of them might be dead.
Well, yeah, it was tougher for me. I thought, well, okay, could I play Biden at around 11:30 p.m.?
Yeah, do an all-nighter.
Can we start the match at 11:30? But he also would just maybe fold everything, and we'd get some money. But and then, but I think also, to me. Well, maybe I'll share my. Maybe I'll save my.
No, go. Let's go. Let's go one round at a time. So choose your top. Who you want to play the most, and we'll just go like then to the second, then to the third.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think personally, if I had my money on the line, probably go with Trump.
Now, why is that? You got to explain why.
Well, it was a hard between him and Biden, but I think with Trump, he's very aggressive, which is actually not bad for poker. It's actually a good trait to have for poker.
Yeah.
But knowing how much stimuli he takes in and how he kind of moves around, would he have the patience? Sitting across from me for hours, would he have the patience to get away from some of the hands? Or could I be patient? He finds himself with like kings, right? And that exact flop that I laid out, and just say, you know what, this is it. This guy does. And I think I could take. I think if we're playing deep stack, high stakes, I think I want him because I think I could stack him. And then I think he'll make a misstep.
He's the richest guy.
With my
money means the least to him.
What's that?
The money means the least to him.
Exactly. And I think he's like comfortable with like risk, and of course he might put me in some tough spots, but I think I can just wait him out.
In my opinion, you're laying out all the reasons that he's going to be a tough opponent.
Yeah, I think you moved him one spot down on my list, actually.
I think he'll play way too many hands. I think he'll play too many hands.
But your heads up, you're supposed to. Yeah. Like that's the worst case scenario is someone who's aggressive and fearless.
That's true. He does. Yeah, that's true. He does. It's good for him to play more hands and heads up, but I think he'll play too many hands, lots of hands, and I think he'll hold on to hands. And I think the one-on-one nature over hours, I think I can get him. I think I can do it. I think it would be a little rocky, but I think since I'm a conservative player, he'll just kind of, it's like that Muhammad Ali, kind of like
rope-a-dope.
Yeah. Like I'll be kind of fold, and then pow.
Yeah, but if you're playing heads up, taking like a fold approach it's really tough. Like you're probably going to be losing. Like you guys are both very good at being extremely patient at a 9-ring game. And I think it pays you a lot of money. But heads up, that's not the same asset that it is in a nine-handed game.
True. That's
and
true.
I think you're underestimating the value of that aggression in a heads up match. Because like if you ever watch, I don't know if you watch heads up, but if you watch guys play heads up, like I watch them and I go, wow, that was aggressive. But they have to, because the value of getting your opponent to fold and like fighting over all these pots, most players don't have a hand most of the time. So it's so hard. You have to defend a lot, but then that puts you in terrible spots where your opponent's polarized, you're capped, and you know it, and you just have to hope you're right and make a lot of good decisions. And like, I feel like it's way harder to be the capped player than it is to be the polarized player. So I think I in my opinion, everything you just said makes it the reason I'm going to have to agree with Tom. I think you made him into a scarier opponent. You convinced me he's a scarier opponent than I was going to say.
For me, you flipped him with one of the others.
Yeah.
So
I made a case. I made a case for him being a tougher opponent. It's true. There's some qualities that would be good, but I think to me, it's like the big thing is just like over time. I think I would. I mean, and me with my friends, we would play heads up tournaments and online heads up and lots of hands, and like it's a different set. But I feel, but with Biden, definitely those were my top two, right? So let's go into number twos.
So I just really quick on the number one, like you would prefer the guy who is like aggressive, making moves, putting you in tough spots over the guy that like isn't sure what his first name is. I mean, it's hard. I don't know that you can convince me.
He's still president.
Maybe
he's still president.
Maybe.
He's still president. But yes, if I get him around midnight and I get a 4-hour session, that's what I was telling Jennifer. Like, I think he might have to be number one if I can get him at midnight, because I feel pretty good about my chances. As we get later in the day. So unfortunately, that's true. So it's like, So that, I mean, it's tough. It's a tough one. And and Trump is competitive. He's competitive, right?
Sure,
so you have that, as well. But yeah. Anyway, so I didn't really know who's going to be. I kind of put him back 1 and 2, but I'm going to stay with it. I'm going to say Trump number 1, Biden number 2 for me.
Okay.
Go ahead, Tom.
Oh, you want me to go?
Yeah, number 2.
I also don't think this one is. The last two I think are pretty close.
Yep.
But I'm going to say Kamala Harris.
Yep, I'm going to agree.
And the reason why I would pick her is because she's very expressive.
Okay.
I don't know how bright she is. I don't really have an opinion. Okay. Without revealing too much about my life, I will say I have a fair amount of experience with functional alcoholics, and I'll leave it at that.
Okay.
So there are certain signs. I'm not saying she's an alcoholic, but I'm saying if she's not an alcoholic, she's got all the signs of one. So I would prefer to play somebody who is drunk while I'm playing them.
Oh my God.
But also, I think she's very expressive. Right? I don't think she has a very good poker face. So,
I agree with that.
And so, especially heads up, like, again, I don't know how good my poker face is, but I mean, if somebody is doing whatever, like, I think she's way better than Biden would be a scarier opponent.
I agree.
But I also think the gap between her and the next two guys is big.
Enormous. I agree. I agree. I'm going to say, like, I don't know. I don't think much of the public has like followed her speeches, but if you've listened to the woman speak, it is like I mean, watching Biden speak is like is painful because he's so compromised or whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But watching her speak, did you guys see when she spoke to all the people about when she spoke about the war in Ukraine?
Oh,
that was embarrassing, just utterly embarrassing. Ukraine is one country.
Yeah.
Russia is another country.
Yeah. The king is a card. The jack is another card.
It's
The
just
king
like,
is a bigger card than the jack.
yeah.
So if we have a king in our hand, that's better than if we have a jack in our hand. It's like,
Well, when
okay.
she did the space is all around us to a bunch of, it was
Yeah.
the space for. I think most people don't realize who she is just because she's kind of been hidden in the back.
Yeah.
But I
yeah.
think as she's been given a bunch of like scripted speeches that she's doing right now.
Right.
I think the moment she gets in a debate, it's gonna kind of be that like, oh, maybe the emperor has no clothes, or to your point, Tom, of like, she's maybe not as clever as she appears to be with scripts and crowds and all those things.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, to me, the first two very easy. I would greatly prefer to play them.
But the
Number
next two,
number 3 and 4, I think are so close. I'm excited to
agree.
talk about those. Yeah.
I agree. I think
Jess,
Obama's
okay, go
probably
ahead, go.
smarter, and he's
Okay.
also younger, so he would be able to retain the information more.
Okay.
They're also both pretty rich. I mean, Obama's not Trump rich, but he's rich. So if we're playing for like, say, whatever, $20,000, it's nothing.
Right.
I think it's really close. Like,
yeah.
If you ask me this question tomorrow, you might get a different answer. So
yeah,
you kind of talked me into putting Trump last. Like I was really gonna do Biden, Harris, Trump, Obama. But
I was too. That's hilarious.
You actually kind of made me flip my vote. I think
same here.
I would choose Obama over Trump.
Yep.
But you could easily convince me that that's stupid and I should do it the other way.
See, and I would say that like Obama, I don't care for most of the things Obama did in his presidency. He's extremely suave and composed. Like when he talks, when he speaks, so I think his ability, his ability to hide information and be deceptive, I think would be off the charts.
Yep.
I don't know that Trump would be able to hide information as well. That said, I think he is going to do very well under pressure, but I see both of them holding to like putting you in tough spots and being able to just be very composed. And Jess, I think you really talked me into, he will probably be the most aggressive, and that's going to be the hardest thing to deal with. Like, I think Obama gives me the sense of like, he would have really good bluffs, but probably not as, I probably wouldn't be facing gross polarized spots as often. For that reason, I would probably choose Obama. So I'd probably go Biden, Harris, Obama, Trump. I was going to have it the other way, but I think you talked me into the flip.
Yeah. No, definitely for me, Obama would be last. He's only like, how old is Obama now?
I don't know without looking. 60,
like
I would
60?
guess.
Yeah, that would be my guess.
Yeah.
He's like 60. And
yeah.
I think also we're giving them this 2-week training period. And I think, there's no way. I feel like Obama would be last.
Well, it's possible he would learn the most. That's certainly
absolutely
possible.
Yeah. I think. I would trust his. Yeah, and I mean, I don't know.
Long silence.
Yeah, like I don't want to. Like, Trump is older, and some of the stuff that he says has been stuff that he said like 4 years ago, and like years before that, and like it gets repetitive, and like the ability to take in new information, process it in real time. I think that's also something that I feel would be in my favor. But I guess with the risk, I feel like, it just has to be one spot, and he's going to be willing to take a lot of risks. Like you said, he's going to polarize a lot, but I think he's going to polarize. Like, I think there's going to be spots where I'm going to be, I just have to find I'm just thinking about doubling up. I guess that's the way I'm thinking in my head.
Yeah, but you have to think for every time you double up, you also get wiped out, right?
Right.
So like you're more likely to lose your entire investment.
But if it's
Well,
like, if it's a significant part of my bankroll, there's really like, if it's 50% or greater, it's like, I got one shot here, you know, like this is one buy-in here.
right.
And I'm going to take, I think I can find that spot. I mean, and if he takes me, it's like, oh man, I was wrong. But anyways, so that was the game.
Interesting. Yeah.
That was pretty funny. That was pretty funny though.
Yeah, it was a good idea.
We had the same order, but Jess convinced us both to change our order.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Yeah, good game. All right, and then we wanted to talk just a tiny bit about tiers. Do you guys have any other like pressing hands or anything else you wanted to discuss? Otherwise, let's talk a little bit about the vlogger video and get into that. Jess, I know last time we talked, you're like, hey, I have so many hands, I want to get to them. So any hands that you're dying to get to?
Nothing I'm dying for. You know, we can go. Yeah, I'm not dying. Yeah.
If you have a good one, then let's. I'm okay with doing it. So.
Gosh, how good is this one? This is the most recent one. I think it's pretty straightforward, you know.
Okay.
I could be proved wrong, but I think it was pretty straightforward.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about the tiers video then. I think, Tom, I'll throw to you. This was your idea, so go ahead, kick it off.
Okay, we got a lot of feedback. Some of it positive, some of it negative, and I think at least for some people, I think they misunderstood or maybe wanted a different type of rating. So for example, when I cast my votes, like you asked me for a top 5, I picked 5 ones where I thought I would learn something because I thought the players were somewhat better than me, but not like amazing, right? So like as an example, not in my opinion that he does a vlog, but let's say Doug Polk, who is amazingly good player, right? But if he made a vlog of like if he, at least in his ones, he kind of simplifies presumably what he's thinking, but I mean the difference between my level and his level is so great that I'm not convinced that I would learn anything from him. Not because he's not a good teacher, he might be an excellent teacher, or not because he's not a good player. He's obviously an excellent player, right? But I'm not at the level where, you know, I would learn anything from him, I think.
So it just seems a little too far away from where you are, and therefore hard to relate and like get a lot lot out of it, right?
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So, so my picks were like basically people who were, you know, like that I thought, like say, well, just as an example, like, okay, 2 of my votes were Doug McCusker and Poker Babo, and I consider both those guys to be better than me, but not a universe better than me.
Gotcha.
So when I see them play, it's like, oh, I can understand what they're doing. They do this differently. If I do it the same way they do it, maybe I get to be a little bit better.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah. I think when I set out to do that, what I really wanted to get was, like, I mean, I mentioned it in the video, but like Jess, when you in the past have been like, oh, dude, you got to check this guy out. He's really good. I've been like, oh yeah, sure, I'll give him and often, not always, but often, I'm like, oh, that was great. I glad I found this guy because I wouldn't have stumbled into his channel otherwise. But that I wanted the video to be like that. Like, hey, who are you enjoying the most? And I think some people, to your point, Tom, took it as this person is the best poker vlogger of all time or this year or whatever. And that's really not what I set out to do. It was a tier video of like, hey, go check these people out because, like, I mean, this might sound dumb, but I wasn't watching Wolfgang Poker before that ratings video. And now his shorts they're so good and they're so easy to watch and consume. And his video production, even his long form, is like his production value is so high that it's like, man, it's really easy to watch. And I think that I think videos like that are great because in the process of getting all these votes back, I found Slow Poker, Wolfgang, like channels I wasn't watching. And the reason I wasn't watching them wasn't that I didn't like them. It was that there's hundreds of poker vlogs.
Yeah.
And so you kind of need someone who's taken the time and been like, oh, this guy's good, that guy's good, rather than grinding through channel after channel trying to find the best ones. So
Right.
yeah, it was funny, the response. Jess, you mentioned the response to the video. What did you have more thoughts there, because you've mentioned it a couple times? And
Oh yeah, I was. I mean, I was shocked with. I just thought it would be a video that was posted, and there might be a couple comments, and we'd move on with our lives.
yeah,
But it was actually like so many people had an opinion, and then a lot of the vloggers themselves kind of weighed in.
yeah,
And I learned that, I mean, the vlogging is a really interesting sphere. I mean, because you do it, Sean, that I would imagine that in some ways it's kind of isolating. You like film, on the table, and then you go back to the editing room and you do all that. It's not like you're with all the other vloggers and hanging out. And so, like, when your name gets mentioned, in a public forum, it's like, whoa, what is this? Because it doesn't.
sure.
I think it doesn't really happen. Like, we mentioned some people here today, but I think that's something like people kind of do their thing in their lane. And then that, had a lot of feedback. And I think also people love to be ranked and judged and awarded things.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that as much either. And so it was really fun, and we should definitely do it again. And we can kind of change the how we do it, or what the frame is. But also, I think like what Tom was saying is like, Cards and Capital, like, what is our group of people that we're voting, right? It's like probably mostly like low stakes players that actually play somewhat regularly.
Yeah.
Now, like, I have friends that play, only in home games, or may go to the lodge like once every couple of months, and they watch Doug Poke,
right?
And they watch the deep analysis, and they watch high stakes poker.
Yeah.
And they're not like watching, Doug
1-3 grinders. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not like, oh, look at that, and Poker Babo, and like never. Yeah. So like, but then I think in the comments too, like there may be a lot of people that watch vlogs that are in that sphere, that are like, why isn't this person in this list? Because these folks are they're low stakes players. Like, what's happening? So it was an interesting mix of ideas and things. And maybe we could add that to like the comments. I don't know if people would do it, but like if you said, put who you like, and put what game you play and how often or something, and just to kind of see what different types of players or viewers like.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see. That's a good point, because I would say a lot of the like really casual people, they're not going to vote for the channels that got
no,
the way they
that
did,
would
right?
be,
So
yeah.
I mean, you can usually tell just by subs kind of what the general public thinks, right? if you're one of the biggest channels, it's probably because the general public enjoys your channel more than most. If you're a small channel like mine, nobody wants to watch your channel. Like, but it doesn't, it doesn't like that really wasn't, I wasn't setting out to, like, I got comments, like there was one that was like, why isn't the Trooper on here? This dude is like revolutionized. And I have an appreciation for that guy. I watched his poker vlog back in the day when there were like no other poker vlogs. But once there was more to watch, I was like, okay, I don't really want to watch this guy buy coffee anymore. I want to watch somebody play cards.
Right.
And, you have to appreciate that what he did and how he did it. But also you get to a point where the goal of this video was find somebody new this year. And the goal of 2025 will be not, hey, who is the best of all time, but who is the best this year, so that you're still finding new people and discovering new channels and all that stuff. So yeah, I think it's good. I just put out another like rankings request video, and it did extraordinarily poorly, to the point that I don't even think I'm going to make another video this year ranking anybody. But
I mean, I like the once a year thing. I think, and we could maybe build up to it or something.
Yep, I think it was too much, too ambitious. But that's okay. That's all right. sometimes you think you're like, oh, I think I have an idea of what the audience might enjoy, and the audience slaps you in the face and says, no, that's not what I want. And that's what happened. And that's okay. That's right. I'm super excited though. This next episode coming out is going to be a doozy. I just got to tell you guys about it real quick, and we'll get wrapped up here. We've been talking for a long time, but
Okay.
I went out and played with the goal of like, okay, I'm going to play till I hit my, cap, and I can buy this many shares of this company.
Mhm.
And I hit my goal, and I was like, I should probably go home, but I hit it pretty early in the night. And it was like the first time I'd been to the card room and didn't have to work the next morning and had no reason why I needed to hurry home. And so there's even a point where I'm like talking into the camera, like, I think I'm going to stay a little bit longer. We'll see what happens. And I almost end my night with like a good profit, like a great night. And I'm like, I'm just going to go. I just got to like scratch the itch a little bit and go play some more. And I end up booking the biggest win of the year because I stuck around and kept playing. And so I'm super excited to put the episode together. It's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, the hands, I was just going back through the hand history, and I'm like, I don't have any other page that looks like this, where it's like, I got this, and then I got this, and then I got aces again, and then I got this. And like, just, it was one of those nights where like, oh, I can't do too many things wrong, So
Those are great nights.
Oh, they're so rare. So it's super fun when they happen.
Yeah.
All right, Jess, you got one more hand? You want to do one more before we get out of here?
Sure.
Or Tom,
sure.
Tom, have you done a hand yet?
Oh yeah, Tom.
It's okay. I don't really have any hands that are interesting.
Okay. All right, Jess.
Okay. Well, let's do my most recent. Let's do my most recent one. Let's see here. Okay, so I am under the gun +2. I have only 250 in my stack.
Okay.
And I have Ace King of Diamonds. Ace King of Diamonds.
Okay.
And it's 1-2. It folds to me.
Okay.
And I decide to limp.
Limp. Okay. Tell me why.
Interesting.
No, I just wanted to see your face.
Okay. It's like, no. Hopefully you have a great reason. Okay.
No, I opened to 15.
Okay. I was already typing in the notes, raise 2, and then you said limp.
So I opened to 15, just standard open at our game. And the cutoff calls and the button calls. So we're out of position. It's so funny, when I go over these hands, I find myself always saying we're out of position because it happens so much. Because also, like when you get hands, they happen equally in and out of position. And when you play a game where there's multiple callers, even when you're in late position, you can be out of position. So,
and I think the reason, because mine was out of position as well, the reason we end up going over them is we're probably prone to making the most mistakes, and they have the hardest decisions, right? So it totally makes sense to me that you're out of position. Okay, cutoff and button call. We got a pot of $45 and head into a flop.
Yeah, so 48 and go to a flop. And the flop is Ace of Hearts, 8 of Diamonds, and 8 of Spades.
Okay.
All right. So
putting
you checked.
Tom, are you checking this spot, or are you joking?
No, I'm saying he checked.
Well, okay, but would you check?
Probably yes.
Okay. I'm betting this, but I'm betting it on the small side. So
yeah, makes sense. And then if you bet on the small side and got a caller, would your plan, if there were blanks, like a 2 and a 3 come, and the suits don't come, if you get one caller, would you kind of like bet, but it would be bet small, like a kind of line, or what would your?
Yeah, I mean, I think you have plenty of value targets still. There's lots of worse aces. An 8 should let you know. That's why I'm going to go small, flop and turn, and we'll see where we're at. I'm not planning to pile everything in there. I think there's going to be cards where I get additional equity, and then I might get a little frisky. But I think if it's not, if it's not like a king or another ace or a a diamond, you could maybe get a little wild with. But I think you're just going to continue your advantage and looking for value. So I'm looking for value from worse hands, pocket pairs, something that, I mean, it's mostly pocket pairs, but a lot of ace X that's worse than me. And I'm expecting one color, not two. So
Yeah. So what I do, out of position, 2 opponents, I check. I mean,
okay.
sometimes I'll have check raises, and sometimes I'll check call. But
Okay, Jess, let me ask you, are you checking? Why are you checking? That's what I would ask. Why check this spot?
I think I'm checking. Well, I have 2 opponents behind me.
Mhm.
The board to me is pretty static. It's not a dynamic board where I have to pick, okay, I got to charge, and these people could have, like, the hand is what it is. I agree. I'm not, kind of like my thinking is like I'm not trying to pile here, like pile to like
Right.
check raise and then like get it all in. Like it is what it is. So like
Yeah.
so I think, and also I check, I think they will make more mistakes. I think with a ace X, they're going to bet most of the time. And I think, if they have a pocket pair, they may be kind of, feel like they have to bet, like to get the king, queen, king, jacks. So I feel pretty comfortable checking. I
But
think if I bet small and get raised, I think I don't know if I could fold yet. I think I'd have to call and see what they do on the turn.
let's say you're the cutoff. You have ace jack offsuit. The original raiser checks to you. You bet $20. He calls. Turn is the queen of spades or something.
Mm-hmm.
And original raiser checks to you again. Are you firing again?
Yeah, if it's an over card, I'm already losing to ace queen, so a queen coming doesn't really change much. Like that they called could be like, could be a pocket pair that's like maybe not believing. But if I have ace jack and we're on the turn, I think it's close. I think you could, or you could check behind. I think a queen actually is like, it's less likely they have ace queen now.
Sure.
So
Remove some combos.
yeah, so I think you could, and then you're in position, so then you can like bet small on the turn, check back river, because you don't want to go 3 streets with ace jack, but you
Right.
get a couple, and when you're out of position, I'm out of position, so it's hard to get more than a couple, and on this board,
Right. But I would say, I guess my argument would be if you're going to take a check line here, you're going to get a check back from a lot of hands that would call a bet that won't bet themselves. If they do bet themselves by the turn, they're probably going to shut it down. So you're going to put yourself in a position where you're going to make less money on average
well,
than
it's still like
if you take a
it's
bet.
yeah, like
Bet
if it's a
line.
2-3 turn river and they bet ace jack, I call, they check, and then the river's a 3, I could still bet and get some of those lower ace X's. Yeah, still get 2 streets.
Maybe, but I would say that like you have, not only do you have a ton of equity right now, it feels, the check to me feels a little scared for what, like, yeah, they might have an 8, but if they do, they'll let you know about it by the turn, right? And so you're going to reduce the amount you make against the hands you're beating. And yes, you'll increase the amount you lose, but you're going to call a bet when they bet anyway. So now you're calling some hands that you beat, but some hands that you're losing to. But there's going to be a bunch in between that just check behind that you would have got value from that you're now not getting value from. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, I know. Yeah. Like
Okay.
somebody could check behind a worse hand on the flop, and then you lost the street, and then, you could actually lose the best hand potentially with certain hands. There's some risk to it.
Yeah, there's going to be scenarios where you go like check on the flop, bet call on the, or maybe it's like check bet and then call and then check on the turn, check fold the river, and now you only got that one street of value, whereas the other lines may give you 2 to 3 streets of value. And I think we're missing out on the potential of getting paid by a lot of hands that might go check fold, or some, like they might not pay you off at all if you don't bet the flop. So
Yeah.
and you're going to have hands too where you have trash on this, like say you have like 9-10 of clubs here where you can sometimes bet and they're just going to both fold because you have the ace advantage here. I'm not saying you should necessarily, but the point being, like, you're going to have some bluffs, and when those bluffs show up, you like it'd probably be more like 6-7 or something where you have like backdoor equity with a backdoor flush, backdoor straight, and you want to get a fold. The ace flop is good for you. I guess you should be betting this quite a bit, I think.
I think multi-way out of position. I don't know. At 1-2, I don't know if I'm betting on this board without a significant piece of it.
That's fine, but like, don't you think we can get value from worse here with a bet on the flop?
This is my honest opinion. Since I've like kind of done less betting out of position, is that people at 1-2 where I play make a ton more mistakes check to. Like, they're betting a lot more. It is a game where, c betting is so common that when you check, it's like people just totally discount that you have an ace. Like, it's just out of the picture. So I don't know. Like, I feel like with my game tree, out of position, like last year, I think on the Discord, I was always like, just struggling with these out of position spots. And then some people would take advantage. I mean, like I would bet out of position, get a caller, scare card comes or something. I have a medium strength-ish. I check, they bet. I'm like, oh crap. And they have position coming to the river, and I'm just like folding. And I feel like, there's been a couple times where I'm like, oh man, if I bet, I could have. But more of the time, it's like, like I check, they bet, I raise, they call, like we get into it where we wouldn't have gotten into it. So I think,
But what are you scared of? What turn cards do you not want to see here? Because I can't think of one that I'm like, oh no, I would hate to see that there's nothing that I'm like really, really worried about right now. Every card could be bad if they are holding a pocket pair and they boat up, but like, there's nothing that I'm concerned that no flush can come in, no straight can come in, no overpair can come in. Like, there's really
that's
nothing.
What I was saying. It's a very static board. I mean, there's nothing really. There isn't like I'm not checking because I'm like afraid of like it could change on the turn. I'm like checking out of position and to hope to capitalize on mistakes.
I guess to me, I would think you're more likely to get the mistake of them overcalling a spot versus where they have a worse ace and you're essentially coolering them when they have ace jack and you have ace king. Because the run out, it's going to be hard for this to be really scary by the river. Not saying it won't, but it's going to be hard for it to be. And so it's pretty easy for you to pseudo cooler them, like a mini cooler where you go 3 small bets and they call you the whole way because they have an ace and the board looks very static. And it's like, I can't tell you how many times I've seen people just like, what was I supposed to do? Like, I can't get away from it.
That's a good point. I do like out of position, like the small betting, like keeping the betting lead and betting small. And like, you can do that with more variety of hands than kind of like half pot, like a bigger size. So I like that.
You just saw it, eh, Sean?
Yeah. Justin just said, is it still a check if you're up against Biden. I know a few of you joined in after we did that. We just ranked our most likely, like who would be the easiest person to play heads up, and yeah, we great comment, Justin. That's
well, you know, Justin. Let me tell you this, Justin. Against Biden, I don't think he's going to be betting a lot of hands. You know, when check two, like you're gonna have to
gotta
be
bet.
like, he's not like a typical person at the lodge that I play against. Like I'm gonna have to be kind of putting it to him, you know.
Right.
So, and I do like the bet small, and kind of eke out something from him. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. If he's looking especially wobbly, you could check to him and hope he knocks some chips into the middle, and they call it an all-in.
Yeah, that was a great point. That was a great point.
All right, so back to your hand though. I think what I was trying to say is I think there's a lot of spots where you'll get somebody to go like, they'll do the what could I do? I see it all the time. Like what could I do?
Yeah, I think
top pair.
And, I think you could bet 3 small, especially on this kind of board with the stat. Like we're agreed. I think we could bet 3 small. I think if that's the thing is like I wouldn't want to size up, and then I think because I do think if I size up, I can still get 2 streets, and if I check, I can still get 2 streets. And I can decide the river sizing. But yeah. Anyways, so I check, and you know what happens?
It checks through.
The cutoff, so 48 in the pot, the cutoff bets 15, and the button folds, and it's back to me.
Okay. Well, now there's no way you're folding, so I'm not saying you can't check raise this, but now that you've taken this line, I'm probably not going to check raise this. Because it's going to be hard for a bad ace to now be like, yep, I'm putting all the chips in the middle. At this point, I think you really only have the option to call.
And your opponent has almost no outs if he's behind you, right?
Correct.
Like
drawing
almost 2 outs or 3
almost
outs.
Dead. Right.
Yeah. And I won't see like, if he gets a 2 pair, like I won't see it either.
So you said cutoff bets 15, button folds, and you call, right?
Right. So 78 in the pot. The turn card, the 9 of diamonds. 9 of diamonds.
Diamond. Okay.
So I check, and he bets 25.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I still think we're in the same scenario we were on the flop, right?
Yeah. I mean, you have a diamond draw, but you're
probably
ahead
at 4 diamonds now.
But you're probably ahead at the moment, right?
But right, so like I think you're either behind an 8 where you don't want to put chips in the middle, or
it's pretty strange bet from an 8, but yeah, it's possible.
Right. Most of the time, I think you're facing an ace where if you check raise, you're just going to lose them and potentially lose more value on the river. You're never folding. And yeah, I think you just make the call, right?
Yeah. So I call.
Okay.
So now 128 in the pot.
Oops.
And the river is the 6 of hearts. 6 of hearts.
Okay. River, 6 of hearts. All right. What I don't want you to tell me here, Jess, before we get to this, is that somehow the opponent has 10-7 and managed to do this all with some weird, or pocket sixes. Yeah. Definitely a possibility that he has a boat, but let's see. I think based on how it's gone here, this is an interesting spot. I'm going to lead here, but I'm curious what you guys are going to do.
You're going to lead to kind of eke out against like ace jack or, the hands that would check behind because they're like, the board's getting kind of connected.
Yep. I'm calling a bet if he bets, and I think he's going to check enough that I'm going to go ahead and put out the smallish bet that I would have called to try to get a worse hand that might check to call. And if he goes over the top, I was gonna call his bet when he betted anyway, Now he lets me know that I'm no good and I can fold. But I'm going to try to get value from worse here.
So smaller bet is what, like 40?
Well, let's see. So remind me, pot is 128. No, I'm probably going to go for 50 even.
Okay.
Yeah, 50 even.
Yeah, so that's nice. I didn't think about that. So like a nice bet fold strategy, and kind of like you were saying, like you want to, it would be nice to get 3 streets on this kind of like dry board, and with a lot of ace X's, because people also want to play a lot of ace X's.
And the other thing too that I'll say about that is that you're setting the price you're going to call, right? Like, so if you check to him here and he polarizes really big, now you don't have the choice of the $50 size that you would have called. You now have to either call his size or fold. And so now you're in a worse spot, right? Where it's like he makes it $120 or $150 in the river, you're probably going to fold, but like, let's say you get a little curious. You're like, oh, that looks really bluffy. And does he really have it? And why would he do that? And there were 2 diamonds and I'm holding them. But you know what I mean? Like, you can kind of talk yourself into a call. Whereas if you bet 50 and he's like, I don't care that you bet 50. I want all your chips. Easy. You can get away from that.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Because like if he bet 100, like I can be a little bit married to hand sometimes, and I'm like, man, I got ace king here. Like, I start to think of things that he would do that with. Like, well, maybe he did that with ace queen. Would ace queen do that? Oh yeah, maybe ace queen would do that. And then, shows me like the boat or something. But it does happen. So I like setting my price, and then it's rare for somebody to kind of like on a check call lead to raise without having it. I mean, who does that? Like,
exactly.
Check call lead is strong. There's no flush draw that I missed here when I called, beforehand, and
exactly.
I could have like pocket aces here, So, so very good point. I like that idea. I did not do it in the moment. I did not think about it, but that's why we talk about these things.
Yep.
So
you
check. And Tom, would you have checked, or would you have done the $50 bet?
My first instinct was check, but I think I agree with I agree with Sean.
That's a good point. I like it too. Yeah. So I check. He bets $50.
Yes, that's funny. So yeah, that's like exactly what I would have wanted to pay, and you can get value from worse. I think at this point, I'm going to call. You're going to get shown bad news once in a while, but I think you'll get shown ace queen, ace jack, fair enough, and you're going to be good often enough that it's a pretty easy call. Because your price, 128, so 130, 180, 50 into it. I mean, yeah, you barely have to be good here. You have to be good just over 20% of the time to be correct. So it's a pretty easy chuck it in. Wait. Before you tell me that you quickly lifted a chip and threw it in like when they were playing against the artist.
No, this one I thought about it. I knew it's one of those hands, you're going to call, but you just like think about it.
Yeah.
And I was just thinking, okay, I bet pre-flop. I called flop. I called his turn bet, and now he's making like a bet size. It's not like too big. Like, does he really? I mean, he could have ace 9, ace 6, ace 8, 8 something. Does he
you
really?
Beat ace 6 though.
What's that?
You beat ace 6 though.
Yeah.
Right. I beat ace 6. So it's like, is he really betting 3 streets with a worst ace? And
you've disguised your hand.
I would, yeah. If you check to me and I'm the cutoff with ace queen here, I have played almost exactly this line.
Yeah, I thought it's I was like, yeah, I think you could do that. And also I thought, yeah, there's no way I'm folding for this amount of money. Like, so both.
This is almost the best hand you could have here, and have played.
I would agree with that. Yep.
Right, maybe ace 9, maybe, but other than ace 9, like.
So,
even ace 9, I think you probably put in.
Bet.
No, it's probably check call. It's probably check call still, but okay, yeah, I would agree with Tom. If it's not the best hand, it's like right near the top of the best hand.
It's near the top. So yeah, I call, and I'm curious what he has, and he flips over 8-4.
8-4.
Wow.
That's ugly. That's
Yeah.
ugly. But I think I would have. You probably save yourself money by leading flop, because if you lead the flop, you're probably going to get raised, and when you get raised on this board, you're not getting raised like as the pre-flop aggressor continuing. You're not getting raised by ace 9, right? Nobody's raising you there. They're raising you with an 8, or they're like way out of line. But there's no flush draw. They're like, you're going to get raised by 8-4, and you're going to be able to fold. So I think you save yourself money if you lead the flop.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, maybe, but I also think like it could be. I think it was going to be gross. I think a lot of people, like, he's in the middle. I bet he could kind of smooth call like on that kind of a board, see what the button does, and
Sure.
then he's in position. On the turn, I bet again. If he raises small on that, and I have 2 diamonds, like, and I'm gonna call. Like, it's gonna be some money lost. I think.
Sure,
I
but then
don't. And also, like, sometimes, like, at our stakes, when people raise, it's like a small raise. That it's like,
sure.
you know,
But if he doesn't, like, if even if you took that line where you went bet he calls, you bet he raises, and you either get to fold there, or if you decide you're going to call because you have the flush draw, which is just fine, I think I probably would. It's probably not going to cost you any more than this line currently did, and
right. And
you
then
have
you let
way
go.
more information. Yeah, so like,
And then
I
you
don't.
let go.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
depending on what he raises to. If he raises small and your price is right, that's fine. If he raises huge, you can just be like, all right, that's an 8. I'm not beating it often enough. I'll get away. So just depends on what he does. But yeah, cool. That's a good hand. I like it.
I do have a sort of half a hand question.
Sure. Yeah. What's up?
Okay, so I was in the. Okay, so we're about 250. It won 2. We're about $250 deep,
Okay.
and I'm in the hijack with 2 cards. Okay, I'm not gonna. My question is more of a strategic question. I'll reveal my hand at the end, but I'm just curious. Okay. So I raised to. Oh, there's 1 limp. I raised to 12 in the hijack. The cutoff button both call, and the small blind makes it 40.
Okay, I'm gonna need the action again. 1-2 okay. Hijack, 250, 2 cards.
Yep. Oh, sorry.
Who opens?
Middle position limps.
MP limp.
Okay. I'm in the hijack.
Okay.
I make it 12.
Okay.
And my standard is generally about late position. It's usually 10 plus any limpers. Okay. So I get called by both the cutoff and the button.
2 callers, the cutoff and button.
Yep. And then the small blind makes it 40.
Small blind raise 40.
Okay, so the question is, what hands are you calling here with? What hands are you raising here with? One you-go card, yeah. What hands are you raising with, and what hands are you folding? Like what kind of hands?
Let's see. Hijack, $250. You have a Pokemon card and a Yu-Gi-Oh card. The middle position, you limp. No, there's a limper in front of you. You raise to 12.
No.
2 callers, so 36. Small blind goes to 40. So we have $76.
No, I'll say something about the small blind. He has been quite active.
Okay.
He does not seem stupid.
Okay.
And I have not seen him 3-bet. I only played with him at this point for like maybe an hour. I have not seen him 3-bet.
Okay.
Pre-flop yet.
Let's see. So there's a lot of incentive for him to squeeze based on all the dead money. Mm-hmm. If he's the kind of player that is aware of that and capable, then you could probably raise as light as ace queen suited. If he is not that kind of player, I would be much tighter than that.
I think he's reasonably capable. I'd say he's like, I never played with him before, but he seemed to know what he was doing, at least. Like, he wasn't doing anything egregiously horrible as far as I could tell.
Okay, if he's not out of line, I'd say like ace queen is like their they're very capable, looking for it, trying to squeeze often.
Okay.
I'm probably going down as light as ace queen suited.
Okay.
If they are not, if they're just kind of capable, that's where I would be maybe probably ace king suited if they're a little bit. And if they're not very capable, we're down into like strong pocket pairs before I'm going to raise again.
Okay.
Unless, okay, so I mean, I can think of a player type where I would go for the bluff here, where I have like, say I open 7-8 suited or something,
Mm-hmm.
and it goes call, raise to 40, and the person raising to 40 is the player who will raise with queens, but when they get 4-bet will fold. I've played with people like this.
Okay.
In that case, with all the dead money, depending on, especially if like the middle position puts the call in, I've had this scenario, I might just rip and be like, if you have me, you have me. But most of the time, people are going to be like, oh, geez, he opened pre-flop. There was lots of calls, then a raise, and now he wants to put all the money in. He has aces. I've had people like, I had a guy the other day like proudly fold kings to me when I had 9 high, right? Like
Wow.
I had absolutely nothing, and he just was like so confident that I had aces that he folded on a board that was not scary at all, just because he was like, he was very sure that I had aces because nobody else takes that line, right?
Right.
I had 9 high. So but so if you identify the right player, I might make a move. Otherwise, does that answer the question well enough?
Okay, so what hands would you call with?
Call?
Yeah.
Like probably my pocket jacks to 8s, something like that.
Okay.
And ace king offsuit. Probably somewhere in that range. You're gonna have position on the small blind, so I'm not gonna be folding quite as often. But yeah, like I'd probably have like 8s through jacks, the ace queen offsuit, ace king offsuit, something like that. Like it'd be.
What about something like king queen suited?
Yeah, king queen suited I would call with, sure.
Okay.
You're gonna have some reverse implied odds, so you have to play that one more carefully. But that's true of ace queen offsuit as well.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I mean, king queen is like, I don't know, if you haven't seen him 3-bet, and then it seems like this is a small size to 3-bet. Like he's like, like
Yeah.
Very, very small.
Yeah, like there's some people in our game that do that, and it's like they always have these really, these like aces and kings, and they think it's good to have 3 people put more money in, but
right,
their chances of winning the pot like goes down. But yeah, so that makes me nervous. It'd be funny because like if you had more information, like if you knew the cutoff and button were going to call, and you have like 7s through 10s, then it'd be an easy call, kind of see what happens. But yeah, in this spot, you only have 250, so it's going to be a big, it's like going to be a. I agree with Sean. Like it's like if they're not making a lot of moves here, they're not 3-betting, and a lot of people don't 3-bet at 1-2. So if they are, I mean, I would aces and kings, of course. Like let's just go.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know, queens. I'd probably just go. Because that's just, I don't know. You could do that with ace king.
If they're capable, I just go for it with queens. If they're not, if they're Jerry the Farmer that you mentioned like from 2 episodes ago, then I'm folding almost everything at that point.
Right. Okay.
Yeah,
because I had king of spades, jack of spades, and I folded.
I would fold. Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Okay. That's
the
pretty
price
easy,
is so good, right?
It is, but like that hand has extreme reverse implied odds.
Right.
When you hit your jack, it's going to be tough for it to be good. When you hit your king, it's going to be hard for it to be good. Right. You basically need to hit the straight. Even if you hit the flush, it might not be good. Like there's just a lot of problems with that hand. So
would you be more inclined to call with say 9-8 suited?
No, I'd probably
actually no, maybe not 9-8. Say 6-7 suited.
Yeah, where you have like you're not going to contain their range, and if you hit the right flop, you're way ahead.
Yeah.
Probably not against
Okay.
at a 1-2 game. No, and your
Okay.
stack depth is so low that you're kind of
Right.
just lighting the money on fire most of the time.
Right.
I would say like I almost want to be holding that ace or king blocker to try to be like, okay, I could make a move with it. So like with the king jack suited, I'm probably not going to raise it. King, like if you had king queen suited there, yeah, I'm probably not going to raise it unless they're very, very capable, like way too wide. Yeah, I think you're going to want to have an ace in your hand when you go for the move. If you decide to raise, if you're going to be calling, I just don't think there's a lot of calls here unless the player's very capable. Your stack depth and what they're, because you're gonna if you call, you're basically gonna have like a just under a 2-1. So like, and depending on and you have players left to act behind you. So like, let's say you call and they both call. Now you basically have a 1-1, right? And that's right. You're gonna stick all the chips in on the flop if you hit, and you're gonna fold if you don't. That's hard to maneuver, and you really can't do much. So
okay, and your range wouldn't change much if I was seated on the button in this example, right?
No, then it would change a little bit. That's if I have king jack suited, a raise to 40, I'm on the button. Yeah, I might call.
Oh,
your price is so good. You have perfect information. The problem is if you call when you're in middle position here, and everyone calls. Right. Now you're playing multi-way. You have players behind you. There's so many problems. Your SPR is terrible. So I think that's a disaster. But if it folds to you on the button, especially with all the dead money in there, like, because you have to pay 28 and there's already, what do we have? $76 in there. I mean, I would call in that scenario, but I just don't like the players behind you.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I'm assuming you did fold?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And everybody folded, so I never got to see his hand.
Okay. Yeah.
Did he ever 3-bet again?
Nope.
Okay. Okay.
All right then.
But I only for about another hour. So, but I mean, in 2 hours he 3-bet once.
Yeah, he 3-bet once in 2 hours.
Yeah, you're gonna face a lot of like ace king. Even if you call with king jack suited there, you're looking for the flush or the straight or the 2 pair. And like when you hit a king on like king 8-4 or something, you're gonna have to be really cautious and know that you're gonna be beat a lot, right? I mean, you're gonna need to call at least the street and stuff, but just like, okay, it's a dry flop. He's betting. He has aces. He has kings. He has ace king. Like I'm in a lot of trouble, right? So
yeah, that's only 3-betting once in 2 hours that's good to
But I will say exploitatively, if you're like, I think this guy is only doing this with the monsters, even for that price, it's a good fold. If you don't know, then feel free.
Yeah, there's some players that will just kind of min raise and they have great hands, and so it's like, well, I mean, unless I have a pocket pair, like, let me ask you this. So I don't know if this was too nitty or not, but that's what I'm asking. So this is only pre-flop question. Early position opens it to 15. We have like a late position caller, and I'm in the big blind, and we all have like 300, around 300, and I have ace 10 of clubs.
And what position are you, Jess?
Big blind, so it's like 13 for me to complete.
And nobody else called.
Early position opened, late position called, and then it's me. Yeah. So there's a caller, there's an opener, and it comes to me, and I'll tell you my thinking was like, okay, it's like if I hit an ace, I could be kind of dragged for a couple of streets, it's like unlikely, like worse than ace 10 is opening an early position. He may not have an ace, but it's just like if he does, I could lose a couple streets. And if like it's also a suited hand, but I'm out of position, so it's going to be harder. Like if I was on a button, it's an easy call.
Right.
But being the first to act, it might be hard to kind of get paid if I actually hit the flush, but I could definitely get charged, to chase the flush. So I was like, well, it's a good hand. And I was already losing that day, right? I had lost that hand I told you about. So I was like, I don't know. So I because of those reasons, because it's like kind of a medium strength ace. And, I mean, if I hit a flush, I'm out of position. I decided to fold it, but then I thought,
Really?
yeah, I thought, is that something? I mean,
Your
you know,
your
yeah.
your closing action general rule on that is to have like 20 to 30x the call, which you do, like 15 with a 300 stack. And like, yeah, you're going to have some flops where it's an ace high and you're going to lose and it'll be challenging and stuff. But again, proceed with caution, right? You're calling an early position open. You know that he's going to have a strong range, but occasionally you're going to have the beauty is you have another player in there, and occasionally you're going to hit clubs, and so are they. And now they're going to have the king high, you're going to have the ace high, and you're going to check raise, they're going to call, you're going to put the money in, you're going to cooler them and collect all their chips. So it's 100% worth the risk. And occasionally the board's going to flop out, like ace 10 or something, and they're going to have ace king. And sometimes it'll be 10-10 ace, or it'll be 10-10x, and they think, oh, I've got an overpair and the only thing I'm losing to is 10x. And so like yes, you're going to have hands that don't go well, you're going to have some that go really well, but this is one of those great hands to do a lot of checking with on the flop, and planning to do some check raising on the boards, the boards that have 2 10s, the boards that have a club draw, the boards where you hit like 2 pair. You're going to have some spots that as long as you approach it with, I don't want to allow myself to get coolered for my whole stack and I'm going to play cautiously, then I think you'll be fine. You're not going to tend to lose your chips as much. And so it's worth the upside risk as long as you protect for the downside.
Yeah, you have to be. Yeah, that's a good point. I just have to be very cautious and kind of see the action and know I'm up against a potentially strong range. And are you saying like kind of like 20 to 30x? Like, would you like if I had ace 8 of clubs or ace 5 of clubs? Like, would you still call without the potential of like like with a weaker ace 6 or ace 7 because you have 20 30x on a suited ace?
Yeah, this one's particularly good because you have the straight possibilities as well with it, right? When you can hit Broadway with it, that's also very nice. But yeah, I would, because I've played hands where the lower your card gets with it, the more cautious you have to play. Like when you hit 2 pair, like if you hit ace 6, ace 5, whatever it is, for 2 pair on the flop, you have to really navigate carefully, because depending on what else is out there, you can get drawn out on cooler and all that stuff. But there's going to be times where you're just able to cooler that bigger ace that, they have ace queen, the flop is, ace deuce 6, and they're betting, and you're like, yep, I have 2 pair, call. The turn is a 7, call. The river is a king or a queen or something like that. Then that's where it might get a little scary. But for the most part, you're just going to, play it out and go with it. You just don't want to way overplay it and commit to it. Like, oh, I hit ace high on I have ace 6 and it's ace 8 deuce, and I'm going to go call for 3 streets, right? Because a lot of bad players will do that. But
well, it'd be kind of like kind of if they bet flop and they bet turn and they're early position on that kind of a board, it's like, well, by the turn there should be some big flags.
Yeah.
But yeah, I find myself like if I kind of get down from 300 to 200 or 150, like I do feel the need to top up because to play more hands, like if I'm at 150 and this hand happens, well, that's 10x, right? So it's like not really, that's not going to work for me in the long run. I just kind of have to have really strong hands and just go all in with them and push them. And if I, even with like a 15 open, 30x is 450. You know, that would be 450 would have to be in my stack. So really at 300, I just have like, it's really like 20x is 350. So like we have less than 20x here. So but we're close. I mean, we're close. We're like at, I don't know what the math is, but we're close. So yeah, so I do feel like we have to, like, as the dwindles down, it gets harder to play those hands. But yeah.
Well, 15 and 300 is a 20x.
Yeah.
Is that?
What's that?
Well, a $15 raise with a 300 stack, you do have the 20x. So you are, you are right there on that threshold. But I think that's a great point. I've seen people often, and I used to, when I first started, I used to like lose and be like, oh, I don't want to put more chips on and potentially have a bigger loss. But you deprive yourself of when you hit that monster hand and you don't have the chips. Now you can't get the value you should get. And especially for your game where, or I should say our game, where we tend to be tighter on average. But I know your game is very like tight, wait for your spot, then put the chips in. You want a big stack. Like you're going to have, when you put your chips in, you're typically putting them in ahead, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say for you, what I know of your game, you're putting chips in when you're ahead. And so you want as many chips as you can for those spots where your opponent, like you want to cover them so you can stack them when you hit. Because like when you hit, let's say you open this hand, ace 10, ace of clubs, 10 of clubs, like you're talking about, and you have 150. Well, yeah, you don't have the price, but if you hit, like great, and you cooler this guy, awesome. Now you've doubled up to a starting stack versus having a starting stack. You're stuck 150, but now you double up. Well, now you're profitable on the night, right? Just because you've broken even at least.
Yeah, because when you hit a big hand,
you're up. Yeah, you're up.
Yeah, when you hit a big hand, it's like, you know, like I know enough to get more chips in, you know. But if you don't have so little, it's so yeah, I do tend to do that. But you're right. Yeah, like I did the 15 open and 20x would be 300 exactly. So I'm thinking at 11:30 Central Time, playing against Biden. I might make some mistakes too. You know?
Hey, if he catches you with when you're just past your 4th hour, it might be more even than you're expecting.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah,
that's funny. That's funny. Yeah, good stuff. Here, I'm just gonna throw this on real quick. If anybody has anything they wanna talk about before we get out of here, we'll, you know, if you have a question or a thought, throw it in the comment. We're gonna wrap this thing up soon, but gentlemen, any more thoughts? Anything else you want to talk about before we get out of here?
Okay, just one quick thing.
Yeah.
My top 5 list of players who had the biggest impact on me in chronological order in which they had the impact. Doyle.
Yeah.
Harrington. Gus Hansen's book, Every Hand Revealed.
Yeah.
That's an amazing book.
And does he, I've never read that one, but I have heard he actually like documents kind of his downfall and stuff too, right? Like kind of how he went from like, and then
no, this is just like one tournament.
Okay.
He played in the tournament. I'm not interested in tournament poker, but I was kind of interested in his thought process.
And
he won a tournament and he showed every single hand he played.
Yeah.
So if he voluntarily put money in the pot, he had it down.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he was like, he just went to this, it was Australia, this big tournament, and he just recorded. He was like, he didn't know he was going to win, obviously, but he was like, okay, this is the thing I'm going to record. I'm going to get for the book. And he didn't know it was going to turn out this way. So he actually has really, really good notes on every single hand, like his thought process. And then there's video of it on YouTube. And I read the book and like I watched, you know, some of those spots, and it was great.
Okay, so those are all pre-internet ones. And then Doug Polk, he was probably the first big streamer that's like, wow. And then I'd say it's kind of a tie between Bart Hansen and Jonathan Little.
Sure. Yeah, both really good. both really good, both deserving. I think when I put that out, I thought we would kind of get a good response like that. I'm not sure if the video I made enough sense. Like if it was, I think there was too much ambiguity where people just weren't sure exactly what it was that I was looking for. So I might try that one someday in the future, but we're gonna let it go. But that's a good list. Do you guys like, what do you think of Phil Ivey as he's an interesting guy where he like, I really have a ton of respect for him and the way he plays. And I've heard a bunch of interviews and I haven't learned a ton from him. I like watched his training series and stuff and I found it to be underwhelming, but I think as a player, he's just phenomenal. And like his thought process is really, really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, I don't know, watching him is like, it's like a work of art. And it's just like, you just watch and you're just like, I guess it's like watching Michael Jordan, you know, you just like watch him like navigate these spots. And the best hand ever was that hand, it was in Europe and he was playing that, I forget the guy's name, but he had nothing. The other guy had nothing. He just kept raising and and eventually went all in. And it was a paired board. It was like, you know, he just, so yeah, things that just don't make sense and he does them and it's like, wow. And then just all of the respect of like, he's been playing poker since he was underage, you know, in casinos. Like he's put way more time in than anybody. And it was interesting to know, like he used to keep notes. He used to keep really detailed notes. And then he got to a point where he was like, you know, I don't need to do this. All right. He thought of a different way to do it. But yeah, it's very, he's, it's just incredible to watch. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the people that came to my mind when I was thinking of that were all the people that have like caused my game to change or improve. And the people that have like inspired me to keep going and those things like, but as I sat there and thought, I think the person I enjoy watching play poker the most is Phil Ivey. And he has, you know that he has like that intuition and that sense to read people that is kind of like celebrated in Hollywood. Like that's what all poker players are, even though most of us now are like, you know, solvers and ranges. Like we're not cool at all. But Phil has that, like, I love watching him work when he'll sit there and he'll just be staring at someone and you can tell like he's looking for something, but he talks about it in his training. He's like, sometimes your gut will tell you right away that something is off and you can't tell what it is that your subconscious is telling you is off. He's like, but often when you just trust that feeling, you are correct. And it's amazing. Like some of the folds he makes, some of the value bets he makes, some of the bluffs are just like,
they don't make sense.
How do you ever find that there? You know, like, why is that in? How are you making that move? But he's like, yeah, I mean, I can't explain it more than just like, there's something in my gut that tells me, wait a second, something's off. And you like grabbing that sense and being able to act on it is, I think it's really cool. So yeah, got to be one of my favorite people to watch.
Sure, but having like good like that would be like, say somebody saying, okay, you're like if you just don't have that intuition, right? He's kind of like saying, well, okay, I have this intuition that tells me when something is wrong. You should have it too. like why? Maybe
some people may not be as, he may be very sensitive, you know. And
he could be like a 1 in a million or 10 million or 100 million case.
But also, like, I think there's another element where, you know, he's so experienced. Like, good intuition comes from like a ton of experience. So like, it's like, when somebody like, you know, something happens with this guy's neck, like it's like he's seen it like maybe 150 times because he's played like, you know, so many hours.
And a super complete player too, right? So like someone like, say, Phil Hellmuth, okay, maybe is better than Ivey at, let's say, playing tournaments, big field tournaments, or maybe, you know, whoever is better than him at one particular card game, let's say PLO or whatever. But if he's, say, top 25 player in the world in like 6 different things, whereas everybody else is specializing to be like, say, number 10 in the world at one thing.
Like, I'm afraid to play PLO because I'm like, I need to put more hours in this hold'em and figure this out over there.
Right.
Yeah.
And like he's like, yeah, he's sharp. He's able to pick
Yeah.
up all these different games and be, I think also like with poker, it's experience that like, when I watch like YouTube vlogs, it's like I watch them play and I think, oh yeah, I'll do this, I'll do that, or whatever. But like a lot of I feel like I do process more information when I read books, but even with that, it's like you need experience. Like you need to be at the table for it to like click at the table.
Yeah.
For you to be able to like, okay, now I know, like I'll do this. And
yeah. Good stuff, guys. Well, it is late where you are, and I don't want to keep you up any later, but thanks for hanging out. It was fun and good to talk some hands. I have a bunch more that I want to go through with you, but we'll save it for another time. So I don't keep you up any later. But thanks. Good time. And we'll talk to you guys later.
All right. Have a good night.
See ya.